Brendan Dworzinski and Fulton Caster here with you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. A little mix and match week on 580 Sports Talk and Mic'd Up. Jake and Dan are already on their way off to Arlington and Jerry World for Big 12 football media days, which means as those two pair up, the two of us are going to pair up for the next few days here on 580 Sports Talk. And we've got a boatload to get to on the program today, including reaction to last night's home run derby that's coming up here in just a moment. Plus, the Major League Baseball entry draft is wrapping up today. What's the plan? And I know that's a very big, overarching topic for the Kansas City Royals. What are they doing? What is the strategy draft-wise, current pro personnel-wise? What is the plan? But I'm curious, what does John Sherman think it is? What does J.J. Piccolo think it is? And frankly, it boils down to, one, when is this team going to compete? And B, is that pairing prepared to admit publicly what the actual timeline toward being more competitive is? So we'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. Also here in this first hour, we'll talk about a couple of updates to our coaching disasters from yesterday. We spent a lot of time on both Pat Fitzgerald and on Bob Huggins. Well, we've got updates on both. And the Huggins situation is, it's bad and it's just depressing. But we got a really funny response from West Virginia University yesterday. So we'll get to that. Plus, Pat Fitzgerald fired. He's gone. He's done. He's toast. And he's hired a lawyer, too. It's getting ugly in Morgantown. It's getting ugly in Evanston. We'll talk about that later this hour. Plus, our usual Tuesday staple, Random Question Tuesday, coming up here in just a bit. In the 4 o'clock hour today, we got plenty of college football to get to. Our biggest questions for KU and K-State this week at Media Days. Plus, big questions for the rest of the Big 12. What are the newcomers going to do? What's this final season going to look like for UT and OU? What our questions would be for everybody at Media Day coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Michael Swain is going to stop by for this week's Jayhawk Weekly. He'll stop by on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll preview the All-Star game. What are you doing, Kadarius Toney? We're going to get to that, too, in the 5 o'clock hour. Kadarius Toney alleges he was hacked, but it's very clear that he wasn't, and he was sending explicit messages to dudes through the DMs. Chill out, bro. We're essentially going to tell Kadarius Toney to chill out in the 5 o'clock hour. Plus, we've got What Is Wrong With You, and we'll get to your texts and your comments on YouTube. It's all coming up in the next 3 hours on 580 Sports Talk. Don't forget, if you want to be a part of the show, that text line number, 785-272-9429. And our YouTube channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Just head to youtube.com, search Sports on 580, hit subscribe, and that is the easiest way to be in touch with everything we are doing video-wise on the show. Fulton, this is your first time since, what would that have been, May, if I remember the days correctly, May 13th of last year. That's a non-crosstalk appearance on the program? On the flagship?
Something like that. I think so.
I think that was it. I think May 16th was the anniversary. I know, in fact, that was the anniversary of the new format of shows. But we got a lot to get to. Welcome, Fulton, back to the flagship of our Sports on 580 programming. And we've got a lot to get to over the next 3 hours. But I wanted to start real quick before we get to the Royals in particular on this All-Star Tuesday. I thought the home run derby was a blast last night.
It's my favorite event of the year.
I did not watch the first round. Abby and I were watching some other stuff on TV. We watched the series finale of the other two on HBO Max. Phenomenal show. And we watched the latest Righteous Gemstones on HBO as well. So I didn't tune in until the semifinal rounds, but I went back and I saw the highlights from the early part with Julio Rodriguez going crazy and Adley Rutschman hitting home runs from both sides of the plate. That was super cool. But I thought it was a great night. You got everything you wanted. Young stars, guys who, and we talked about this yesterday, Adolis Garcia. Maybe you don't know a whole lot about him. He's a Ranger and he's young and people got introduced to him for the first time. You saw established stars like Mookie Betts. All these dudes had big nights. Pete Alonso, another established guy. There was a lot of drama. Vladdy Jr. was obviously great. Aside from the fact that ESPN does a terrible job broadcasting the Derby, it was a blast. It was fun. It was everything you could hope for. And again, I really do think, as much as yesterday on social media, I saw more pushback on the format than I have before. A lot of, this is worse for TV, or, I can't stand this. I wish they would just go back to the out numbers and all that. I think the format is awesome. I think it was a really fun event. I just wish ESPN's broadcast didn't suck.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I will say this. I don't get some of the pushback on the format. I think the format change that they've made, going with the head-to-head matchups, the timing of rounds and everything, that's the best way to do this. Because I'm not here to see how efficient these guys are at hitting home runs. Why do I care at how efficient they are at hitting home runs? No, I want to see them hit as many dingers as humanly possible.
I want to see a mash.
Yeah, like I want to watch Julio Rodriguez hit 41 home runs in a technically 4-minute span, essentially. Mm-hmm. I don't get that in the swing-off format. Like, yeah, you got Josh Hamilton that one year hit 28 with the old swing format, which was absurd in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
The way the system is designed, the way the event is designed in particular, is perfect. No notes. Keep it the way it is. Don't change how this event is structured. You have finally found the perfect way to run this event. They have got to get better production value.
Mm-hmm.
The production of the event is horrendous.
Yeah, it sucks.
Because, and I don't know what the perfect fix is, but like the constant jump cuts between the guy swinging and watching the ball run into the bleachers is just very jarring. Like
it's hard to follow. Yeah,
there has to be a better way to do that. And then I love Carl Ravage and company. I think as calling a baseball game goes, they're fantastic. They do a good job. There's good analysis, everything. Especially Eduardo Perez, love him. They are not built to commentate a home run derby. Because the derby should be energy, excitement, fun. The neckties are off. We're all loose up here. And I don't know if that also is the right... Like Chris Berman was perfect. Perfect
yeah.
In every way, because every insane thing he said felt natural.
Yeah, it really did.
Like Chris Berman calling out the most random places in the world we're hitting baseballs to. Fantastic. Carl Ravage tried that with Mount Rainier about 80 times, and it stopped being funny after the second time.
See, I would actually disagree. I don't love that duo, or trio, I guess, when you throw David Cone in as the Sunday Night Baseball team. Like,
It's fine. I'm not going to say it's anywhere top tier, but it's fine.
It's better than Vescursion and A-Rod, but
yeah, exactly.
I thought that was an abomination of a team. So I don't love it. I don't have anything personally against those guys. It's not the worst booth I've ever heard, but it's just the fact that they don't have a good way to watch all the home runs. The graphics are slow. It's not well put together.
No.
I would love it. Split screen it or do like a, top and bottom split screen. One of the guys swinging, one of just a bird's eye view of the stadium watching the home runs fly out. Not all the jumping all over and, oh, this was a home run. Oh, this wasn't. Oh, this was. Oh, we missed 3 over here. It's too much.
You could very easily set up some kind of a split screen way to always have a camera on the batter with, your home run graphic, your number graphic and all that. And then you have kind of like a bird's eye view and just throw a ball tracer on it. So it's also easier to track. That's not hard. We have the technology.
For many, many years. But overall, I mean, it was
fun event.
It was fun.
I love it.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It is the best all-star festivities event.
Yes, there is no better individual festivity-related all-star event than the Home Run Derby.
Because
the NBA's got nothing on it. The NFL's got nothing on it. The NHL's got nothing on it. It is the best festivity-related event.
Once upon a time, I would have more easily made an argument for the three-point contest when the league wasn't 48% three-point shots, or the dunk contest when you had superstars doing it and stuff that had never been seen before. All the good dunks have been seen before, and no real stars do it anymore. Every player in the NBA can shoot the three at 40%, so I don't really care about the three-point contest. The NFL doesn't even really do a real Pro Bowl anymore. I liked the skills competition as a kid, but that's a little bit different. Hockey, again, skills competition doesn't really do anything for me. This is by far the best. I mean, I'd rather watch the Derby than watch the actual All-Star game, and I probably am not going to watch it tonight, except for the final couple innings after I'm done doing more entertaining things before that. So we will preview the game. We'll get a pick for the game coming up a little bit later on. But no, I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's one of the few nights in the baseball calendar when it's just nothing but fun and excitement and not taking yourself too seriously. Which brings us to an actually serious topic.
Oh, boy.
We are now, and I believe the Royals just picked in the 17th round. Yes, their most recent pick, Connor Oliver from Miami, Ohio, with the 499th pick of the draft, a left-handed pitcher, left-handed collegiate pitcher. The last 6 Royals draft picks, in fact, have been pitchers, all from the college ranks. The Royals, through their first 17 rounds, which includes 18 picks, because they had a competitive balance pick on night one. They have taken 15 college players and 3 high schoolers. But those 3 high schoolers were 3 of their first 4 picks. Blake Mitchell, the catcher, first round pick, 8th overall. Blake Walters, the pitcher from Illinois High School, Mehmet Seymour High School, to be specific. And then their 3rd round pick, Hero Wyatt from Staples High School in Connecticut. Everyone else is a college arm. I think theoretically you could say, all right, we're taking the bigger swings on the higher upside guys early and then trying to get maybe lower ceiling, higher floor guys with these college players as the draft goes on. Okay, fine. If that's your explanation, great. I'm more concerned, Fulton, about what the near-ish term, so we're talking the next 2 to 3 years, the near-ish term or short, long term, if you will, future for the Royals is in terms of being competitive. We have already heard that the rest of this year, there's going to be more guys called up. And I give the Royals credit. And I know Quattrero has at least a little say in this. I give Piccolo credit, the rest of the front office. They're trying new things. They're putting guys, they're mixing up the batting order, or they're putting guys in different spots in the field to try to get things unlocked. They are willing to bring up guys who have been toiling away in the minors to get a start or to get in the lineup or to just see if they can do anything. And I've been begging for that all year. They've gotten that. Okay, I am content with it. But how does that lend itself to competing in a longer term window? Are we going to go through the rest of this season with, hey, we're just going to call up a bunch of dudes, and if it's not nailed down, you're not going to be a part of the starting lineup? Salvi is struggling, but we got to play him, and we're going to play Witt, and we're going to play Melendez, and we're going to play Prado, and then it's Nicky because he can play 18 spots, and that's it. And we're just going to mix it up around there. Isbell's going to play some. Waters is going to play some. Dairon Blanco is going to play. We're going to bring dudes up. We just got to figure it out. Pitchers are going to be all over the place. Fine. Is that something that's going to happen next year as well? Because realistically, with what this roster looks like, and I know you have a slightly more optimistic view of this roster than I do, this isn't a growing pains year for me. This is we've got to trim the chaff kind of year. Like, we need to find out what is actually worth keeping. Witt is worth keeping. Melendez and Prado aren't going anywhere. Vinny's not playing, but obviously he's a part of this next core as well. We know that. But how many of these dudes can actually play? How many guys are worth spending more time developing, worth saving a roster spot, for lack of a better phrase, for? And if there's a lot of them, great. If there's not, fine, you move on. You non-tender, you let them walk in free agency, whatever. Fine. But when you're taking, with your most valuable draft picks, high schoolers who are years away, like Blake Mitchell is going to make it up in all likelihood 27, or if things are slow, 28.
Yeah.
Like, same with Blake Walters.
Yeah, that's
same with Hero Wyatt.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be 4 to 5 years at least before you see the guys you spent your most valuable picks on this year, aside from your competitive balance pick, Carson Rocafort. Was it Rocaforte? Do you know?
I have no idea. I've tried to look this up. Louisiana Lafayette's website does not have a pronunciation guide, and it bothers me.
Come on, Cajuns.
I want it to be known to everybody out there that after that pick, I immediately went to that website looking for a pronunciation guide. Couldn't find it.
We'll just go with Rocafort for now.
That's what I've been going with, is Rocafort. If it's Rocaforte, I apologize.
We'll Americanize it one way or the other. This isn't a quick fix. And I know the MLB draft rarely is, almost never is. And I understand that. It's not like the NFL draft where you pick a guy 8th overall, they better be starting 17 games that season. I get that. But I just don't know what we are supposed to expect from this team. Are we going to be told this offseason that, hey, this was a tough year. We knew it would be a tough year rebuilding. That's why we tested all these guys in the second half of the year. Next year, though, we are going to feel like we should be fighting for a wild card, or we should be, we're going to fight for 500 or whatever it ends up being. Okay. Are you expecting Samad Taylor and Drew Waters and all these other guys, Edward Olivares, to suddenly become no doubt every day average to above average Major League Baseball players? Are you telling me that you're going to figure out the pitching staff, which worries me greatly when you look long term? Are you telling me that you're going to spend money on free agents to find a full-time third baseman? I didn't mention Maikel Garcia. He's in. He's nailed on, I think. And I think he's your long-term second baseman. I do. But a real power-hitting third baseman or a corner outfielder who's not an embarrassment fielding the ball, who isn't Drew Waters, who's a converted center fielder. Like, these are the questions I think need to be answered, but I don't think what the Royals are doing this year combined with, which I like, but combined with the draft strategy and the apparent free agent strategy that John Sherman is employing, I don't know how it comes together to becoming a cohesive, coherent plan for contending anytime in the near future. And that's what worries me. And I don't think that John Sherman and JJ Picollo are going to come out and say, oh, yeah, we're aiming for 26. Because that'd be dumb. But that feels like what this is at this point.
So when it comes to the Royals and what they're trying to do, this is where I've kind of settled on it, and where I think John Sherman and JJ Picollo, the best that they can, have started to, in a way, telegraph what they're doing. The fact that their first 2 picks were high schoolers tells me, and the fact that 3 of their first 4 picks were high schoolers, more so, tells me that John Sherman and JJ Picollo recognize their window to competition is not coming anytime soon. Which, to every Royals fan out there, I know makes you either A, pucker up real fast, or B, makes you want to throw something out a window, or C, just makes you go, I fully no longer care. And I get that. And I understand the upset feelings and the apathy setting in. Like, I get all that. The fact of the matter is, and weirdly enough, I don't get why people are not, like, the Royals, I think, have realized, I've called this a second rebuild is what I've called that they're in right now. And that's what this truly is now to me at this point. The first rebuild failed. Like, full on, straight up failure. None of that matters. What you are doing right now is starting over from square one of what you should have done in 2017, which is a bleak thing to say because it means you might not compete till 2026. But the fact of the matter is the Royals, under Dayton Moore's leadership, and I'm not going to put this all on Dayton. It's majoritarily on Dayton, but it's not all on Dayton. Contrary to what I've had way too many people in my DMs telling me lately, DM, bad GM. This initial rebuild didn't work because the guys you took were partly not the right guys, but also your developmental system was so archaic. You set everything back. Like, Brady Singer, Jackson Kowar, Daniel Lynch under a normal development team maybe could be big league starters right now that could be helping your team. But the problem is you haven't had an actual real pitching development staff until this year, which sets everything off. And where it goes is this year is fully figure out what you have. And I think it's more cutting the chaff than anything else. Is we need to figure out who is worth spending our time on. And then, like, next year, if they get to 70 wins, great. Which I know saying that, everyone goes, goodness, we've been toiling in that for 5 years. Well, blame the guys who did the job wrong 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's where you're at. And there are guys, I think, coming up who could maybe help you sooner rather than later. The idea is the high school guys you took are hopefully your superstars for when the championship push comes. The other guys are just test your development system. Can you find something? Can you build something? And there are guys at different levels who maybe could help you. But the fact of the matter is the guys closest to helping you, like, next year, are not going to be difference makers. Your difference makers will be here in 25. Your potential difference makers will be here in 25 if they develop along where they are. With this right now and everything else they're doing is they are, I think, preparing to be the competitive window being 25 at the earliest, 26 at the earliest, which is going to mean next year's going to suck. 25 might also suck, which is going to continue to drive some people away, is continue to create ire in the organization, create ire from the fan base and all that, and will make John Sherman trying to sell getting a new stadium incredibly difficult. But that's just where the Royals are because they royally screwed up the first attempt at the rebuild so badly. They have wasted 5 years. They have wasted 5 years of players, of resources, and of time. And that's why I don't say this lightly, nor do I say this with any level of any sort of enjoyment, that this is the first real rebuild since the championship is what they're doing right now, which to me means you also can't judge the potential results from this part of the rebuild based on the past results because everything's different. Like so many people have been like, why are we taking high school pitchers when we can't develop pitchers at all? Well, they used to not be able to develop pitchers. The lower minors tells me that they've actually started doing something right and gives me hope that they can turn Blake Walters and Hero Wyatt into actual big league caliber starting pitchers. Whether that will happen remains to be seen, but the long and the short of it is the Royals understand their competitive window is farther off than they want it to be. I still think John Sherman is going to spend some money in free agency this offseason for something because he has to show an investment into this team if he has any hopes of getting his stadium. Because I don't know how you could go a full offseason of spending no money, losing probably the most games in franchise history, and not having a lot upside that your fan base is going to see, and then turn around, look them in the face, and go, please give me a new stadium.
Yeah, I guess that's how I feel about the stadium situation in general, which is tied in here, if not a slightly different topic. If there's no let's be realistic. We know the stadium thing is John Sherman trying to inflate the value of the franchise.
Correct.
Come on, duh. It's not just, we want for the fans and for where the ball. No, dude, you care about building the district so you can have all the money from the businesses there. You care about inflating the value of the franchise by having a shiny new stadium. Come on, fans are not that dumb. We know. We have seen this grift all over America for years and years and years now. But if you're going to make that so obvious by not even shrouding it with the facade of we're trying to win baseball games, I hope Frank White, I hope Mayor Quentin Lucas, I hope all of Jackson County and all of Kansas City says, kick rocks. You want to build in the Northland? Go for it. You want to go, you want to move? Go for it. Try it. Let's see how it works out for you. Okay? Because if you're not even willing to try to, it's not even trying to compete. It's trying to look like you want to compete.
Yeah, I've always put it this way. John Sherman, go sign you 2 veteran starting pitchers this offseason. 2 real veteran start, not Jordan Lyles, not any of that crap, not Jordan Lyles and Ryan Yarbrough, even though Ryan Yarbrough looked great in his first start coming off the injured list. Go sign me 2 real, and I mean legitimate, starting pitchers. Whoever that might be, I don't know. Your call. Go get Aaron Nola. Go get Lucas Giolito. Go get Blake Snell. Go get Sean Manaea. Let's get crazy. Go get Julio Urias. Go get me a real pair of starting pitchers that even if it doesn't make you that much better in the short term, and potentially you're going to get them for 1 or 2 years when you think you're being competitive, show me that you're committed to making this team more watchable. I think there are enough copious amounts of players on the big league and minor league clubs in the field, position players, that you don't need as of now to spend big money on a bat. Now, and that's also because I think you need to keep seeing what those guys are, because that's the plethora of potential guys you have are all position players. I know you need to go get free agent starting pitchers. That is a bona fide fact. So go do it. I'm cool. If this team were to have 2 free agent competent starting pitchers, and then with the lineup next year went with the same idea of it's a bunch of young dudes and we're just seeing what they do, I can live with that. Because I go, all right, you're investing in the team in that there actually is real arms we can watch play. So you're putting less strain on random young dudes who have no chance while you're continuing to just try and figure out what you have offensively.
I don't even need superstars. I don't need you to be in the bidding to get Shohei Ohtani. Now, they should be, but every team should be. Every team in every sport should want a piece of it, even if it's not baseball. But I don't need that. I'm looking at the free agent pitchers for next year right now. He'll be expensive because he's had a good year. Go get Martin Perez from Texas. Someone like that. I don't need a superstar. I don't need you to go after Marcus Stroman, who's going to command a big contract next year, whether he's trying to sign an extension somewhere, becomes a free agent, whatever. I don't need that. I don't need Julio Urias, even though that would be nice.
That'd be really cool.
Give me someone who's competitive, someone who every 5 days isn't going to be a complete disaster, because that's all this team is right now. And really, you just cannot afford to put together another year like that. So be willing to spend. If you're saying that your homegrown guys are going to take that long to be MLB ready, fine. Figure out a way to have a competitive product before then, before 25, 26, 27, because otherwise you're just going to alienate even more people. Yeah. And you really can't afford to keep doing that if you're John Sherman and the Royals.
You absolutely can't.
We'll talk more about the All-Star game coming up a little bit later on today. We'll get you our picks, AL versus NL. Later on this hour, we'll also give you an update on our conversations from yesterday about the ongoing coaching disasters in Morgantown and Evanston. But first, we've got Random Question Tuesday coming up after this break right here on 580 Sports Talk. Random Question Tuesday time here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Fulton Caster here with you. A little mix and match hosting duties-wise on the Sports on 580 block for the next couple of days as Dan and Jake head down to Arlington for Big 12 Football Media Day. Fulton, it's Prime Day. No, this is not an ad for Amazon, but Amazon is absolutely everywhere. Yeah, and it is inescapable, truly inescapable. It's Prime Day. A lot of crap on sale. Okay, there's some cool stuff. There's some good stuff you can get, maybe a few good deals here and there. A lot of junk. So here's my question. What is the biggest impulse buy you can remember buying from Amazon or otherwise?
Oh, man. I don't have a lot of impulse buys. Not because I'm good with money, but because I never have any money. So therefore, I just don't buy a lot of things. So I don't know. I have two options because they were very much just all of a sudden I was like, I'm thinking about buying this thing, then immediately bought it. There was a new board game I bought off Amazon that I did just because I thought it'd be fun to play on vacation and bought it within like 30 minutes of saying I'm considering this. I would count that as an impulse because it was a thought to action within 30 minutes. And then I recently bought, I think, the earrings I'm wearing today was an impulse purchase. I ran and was like, I kind of want to try these, and I bought them and got them quickly.
Yeah,
Probably the two of my most recent ones.
I guess this isn't a great question for us then, because I don't spend on myself. Like I just don't. And
Same.
like the last thing I bought that was just for me, I bought this week new running shoes, which like I use them. I go running a few times a week. My current ones are literally falling apart. There's a huge, I'm not wearing them today, but they're mesh on the outside. There's a huge tear, like from the third toe all the way to the side.
Bored.
And there's like some shoe underneath, so my foot's not exposed, but the mesh is all torn.
Yeah.
And that's on both feet. And I mean, it looks like crap. Like if you walked up and looked at it, like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why get something new? I just don't spend money on myself ever. My wife has been on my ass for a long time. Like, buy new shoes. The ones I had were completely flat on the bottom, no tread at all. She's like, buy new ones. So finally I did. I bought an extremely cheap pair from Nike's website.
Shout out her for badgering you into getting new shoes.
Yeah. She's like, you can spend money on yourself. I think, I can save it for something.
Don't worry, I'm the exact same way. I rarely ever buy things just for me. It's just the way I am.
We would love to know your impulse buys. Either
of course.
Send them to us on the text line 785-272-9429 or in the YouTube comment section. Our YouTube channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW.
Brendan, my random question for you, entirely inspired by this picture essentially making the rounds really recently. I can ask this question too because you're a pro wrestling guy like I am.
Mm-hmm.
Which pro wrestler do you think is the best chance in a fight against a shark?
Well, pro wrestler.
Because former professional wrestler Michelle McCool, currently the wife of The Undertaker, has posted a picture recently of The Undertaker staring down a shark and it just in the middle of the ocean. The shark is not moving. It does not want a piece of the dead man. So I ask you, who do you think is the best chance in a fight against a shark?
First of all, let me tell you a little something about Michelle McCool. I really got into wrestling circa like 2006 onward, like 06 to 10 probably.
Yeah.
I was really, really into it. And big Michelle McCool fan. my buddies and I,
not surprised,
made sure that we had, we didn't have any distractions during her matches.
Fair enough.
And then she married The Undertaker, who's always been my favorite wrestler. And I thought, what the hell? Sure, why not?
Yeah,
good for them.
Good for them.
What wrestler would have the best chance against a shark? It's got to be a guy who's got like mat wrestling skills. Like,
I think
I'm not taking Jeff Hardy versus a shark because he's going to try to swanton bomb him and he's going to get swallowed up in one bite. That's not going to work.
See, I feel like Kurt Angle would be a good choice. Olympic level wrestler, gold medalist.
I can see that because you
grapple with it.
You need some speed.
You need some quickness.
Like Mark Henry's not getting it done.
No,
he's huge. He's strong.
If he can get his hands on the shark, maybe, but the shark might be too quick.
The Big Show couldn't do it.
No, too big.
Too big. Yeah, you've got to have. I mean, the easy answer here is Brock Lesnar.
Oh, that is the best answer, I think.
Brock Lesnar, a UFC champion.
Yep.
A many-time WWE World Champion. Fought in Japan, which is a different style of professional wrestling as well. Had some success in New Japan. I mean, he was a NCAA national champion.
Yep. Great
amateur grappler. I would have to go with Brock. I think he's got the size-speed combo. Now, maybe he's a little bit old for that now. But a younger peak athleticism Brock, I think I'd hedge my bet with him. Or I'd place my bet on him.
I think Brock's a great pick. I think a sneaky pick in that same vein is Bobby Lashley.
Okay, I could see it.
Similar idea, good wrestling background, the MMA background, the good physique. I think it's the right idea, though. They have to have good, legitimate grappling experience.
Yeah, because if you're all punches, kicks, and flash, you got no chance.
The shark will take you out.
It is going to bite your arm off, and you're not going to have... Now, I would like to make this clear. You are not beating a shark no matter what you look like or what your skills are. You are not going to win. So, Brock, I apologize, but Brock Lesnar, you're going to get your face bitten off by a shark. There is no chance. That being said...
You have the most chance of potentially winning.
Yeah, if I had to say who gives me the best chance, I'm taking Brock Lesnar. I could see Lashley. He's got the physique.
Exactly. He's got the physique, the mat experience we're talking about here, the grappling abilities.
Again, though, older.
Yeah, that's the other problem. We're still leaning a little older there.
Man, I once saw him wrestle or fight in Bellator.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen a faker fight. I've watched professional wrestling for many years. I've never seen a faker fight than what I watched Bellator. I swear that was thrown from the very beginning. I also watched Ken Shamrock fight. I think he was fighting Kimbo Slice, if I remember correctly.
Oh boy.
That was obviously fake. Yeah, I do not buy Bellator for a second. If you are a Bellator fan, I apologize. It just, literally one time I watched it looked fake as hell. Sorry.
Yeah, that's Bellator was not a great thing.
Coming up on the other side of this break, the latest from Northwestern football and the latest from West Virginia basketball, our coaching disasters update next on 580 Sports Talk. Regarding Fulton's question from Random Question Tuesday, Vance on YouTube in the comment section says he's taking Stone Cold or Triple H.
Okay.
As his pick here. Stone Cold, the nod to Stone Cold here, he'll get on the mat. He'll brawl, which I think helps. I don't know about his technical ability.
Yeah.
That would worry me a little bit, but I think the brawling attitude definitely would help.
I'm with you. I think it would. We want to just get in there and start throwing blows.
Yeah, I could see it with Stone Cold mashing a little bit anyway. I'd see him stomp a mud hole in a shark. I would be intrigued by that. By the way, this wasn't exactly a great white. I just saw the picture that Michelle McCool posted on her Twitter of the Undertaker staring at this shark. It's just a nurse shark.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, just a nurse shark. It'll still bite your calf straight off. But still, I mean, not the biggest shark you've ever seen.
No, not like he was staring face to face with death.
With a megalodon. That would have been awesome. That megalodon, not, sees the Undertaker and backs off. No, that would be pretty freaking cool. I did have to get to our updates here from our conversations yesterday about Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern and Bob Huggins at West Virginia. We had the update for you right as we went off the air yesterday that Northwestern has fired Pat Fitzgerald. Now, he has retained a lawyer, says that he had an agreement with the president of Northwestern that he was just going to have a 2-week suspension, and then unilaterally, instead of an agreement, it just became the president of the university firing him yesterday. There was no other way for this to end, and I said that during yesterday's show, that these allegations that continue to come out, there are more since we were on the air yesterday talking about this, they continue to get worse and continue to make him look worse. And it appears that this was going on maybe even at the very start of his tenure in Evanston. There's no way this could have ended otherwise. Absolutely no way. And now I'm left wondering, and I saw people bring this up on social media, on Twitter specifically. Where's the AD? Where is the president? The president has only spoken here by letter. He has not addressed anyone. There has not been a press conference. There has not been an ESPN interview, a CNN interview, local TV, nothing. The AD hasn't done a damn thing. And I understand that people are on vacation right now, but as Adam Rittenberg of ESPN, who's been all over this, probably the second most involved in the reporting here outside of the students at the Daily Northwestern, said, hey, look, I get it. People are on vacation. I am working through the end of mine this week as we are trying to deal with this Northwestern story. But you owe it to people to speak and to let them know what is going on, what is happening. And I agree with that take from Adam Rittenberg of ESPN. And this is only going to get uglier, but it had to happen. You cannot have numerous, I don't even know what the number is. I just know it's several, if not plenty at this point, of allegations of what amounts to sexual assault in hazing, years worth of that hazing, allegations against the coach knowing that it was going on, and allegations of racism, the claim that, well, only the players were in that locker room. The coaches had no idea what was going on. Well, then you're an idiot.
Yeah,
and then
you're bad at your job.
Anyway. So there's no other way this could have ended, but we're also not done with this story. The story has not ended because we got lawyers involved. We maybe have a wrongful termination lawsuit involved. This is an institutional failure for Northwestern. It is a university failure, not just an athletic department and football one. And someone needs to speak for this. Someone needs to come out in public and say, this is what's going on. This is why we fired him. This is why we need to change things. We need to tear this program down to the studs. And until they do that, Northwestern, along with Pat Fitzgerald, obviously, is only going to look worse and worse.
They are in Northwestern right now, at least from my interpretation, they are fairly wrongly or bad optically are hiding behind the shield they are given by being a private institution. The fact that they are a private institution protects them from certain public records situations. Like, you can't public records request Northwestern. They are a private institution, so they can hide things a lot easier. I think that's what they were going for before all this blew up, is they were going to attempt to maybe sweep some more things under the rug that they can't do. The simple fact when it comes to Fitzgerald goes to Fitzpatrick goes to this. Either you knew what was going on and didn't stop it, which in that case, you should be fired, or you had no idea what was going on at your own program, which then means you need to be fired. Like, I don't know where this is. This feels like Northwestern is, I don't want to say rotten to the core because that just feels too aggressive.
I think the athletic department is, honestly.
And potentially so, but the fact of the matter is heads need to roll for this, and more importantly, very much so, someone needs to speak and start being more vocal about what's going on. They need to be transparent, because the more that they are non-transparent and try to continuously kind of do things in the background and very not give anything to the forthright public, well, then no one's going to trust what you're doing. We're going to assume you are covering up something else.
When are you going to learn that covering it up or hiding it is worse than just coming out and getting out in front of it? It would make that institution look so much better if all they did was come out and say, look, we have a negative culture within our football program. We are ashamed of it. It does not reflect the values of Northwestern University. We are going to enter a new era for our football program with new leadership, and we hope that you continue to support us and support these student athletes. And today we are going to start moving forward and out of this negative, dark era. There are more questions. There need to be more questions. Why did you allow this to happen? How did nobody know what was going on? How did nobody in the athletic department have any clue what was going on? And if you did, why didn't it come to the forefront? Those questions need to be answered. But at the very least, the people in charge have to come out and do something and put a face to it. You have to. Because if you don't, then it becomes more, what are you hiding? Why are you hiding? And people like the incredibly astute student journalists at the Daily Northwestern are going to find it. You know how I know? Because they found all this in the first place. And it makes them look terrible. That's one of the finest institutions of higher learning on earth. And you're trying to take on all this bad press to cover up for a football coach? I know football's important. I know Big Ten football is important. Pat Fitzgerald meant a lot to that school. I talked about that a bunch yesterday. But come on. Look at the bigger picture here. They're not, and it is making them look worse. So many people in colleges in general, in higher education.
Their damage control is so poor.
And certainly in college sports just have no ability to look at the big picture and be able to actually manage the damage with any sort of grip on reality. Also, Bob Huggins, the update for him is that we have a response, an official response.
We do.
From the University of West Virginia, West Virginia University, and their lawyer, their counsel, about Bob Huggins and his new lawyer's statement to them about how he believes he never actually resigned and how he should be reinstated as the head coach of West Virginia. In part, the letter from, and I want to make sure I get this woman's name correct because she deserves all the credit in the world for this letter.
Oh, yeah.
From West Virginia. Their counsel, Stephanie D. Taylor, vice president and general counsel for West Virginia University. Her letter starts, after reading your recent letter, I am still confused by your allegations. Are you asserting that Mr. Huggins never resigned? Is it your position that Mr. Gianola, the longstanding lawyer for Mr. Huggins, engaged with the university without the knowledge or authorization of Mr. Huggins? And then Mr. Huggins' wife submitted his resignation without his knowledge or authorization? Finally, that Mr. Huggins did nothing to rectify the situation for almost 3 weeks? Or are you asserting he did resign, but his notification did not meet technical requirements under the employment agreement? And are you suggesting that the only, bold and italicized, way Mr. Huggins could resign would be through registered or certified mail? It's a 4-page screenshot of her just ripping Huggins and his new lawyer to bits and essentially saying, you have no idea what is going on. Your claims are ridiculous. Your claims are wrong. And if you'd like to correspond with us further, please feel free. It is a total takedown. And this is why it is going to only get worse and uglier for Bob Huggins. Get out of the spotlight. Stop tearing apart your legacy that was so great and so grand for this.
Yeah.
You've got money, dude.
Just go away. Just my favorite part is we're so deep into this. We're citing court cases in this. Like we're citing court case legal documentation of like, no, you have no leg to stand on. Go away. But apparently Bob Huggins needs an extra payday. I don't know what's going on here. This is just, it's a sad way for this all to end.
Second to last paragraph reads in part, I am certainly willing to have a conversation with you as I have previously done with Mr. Huggins' other lawyers, but let me again restate the obvious. The university will not accept Mr. Huggins' attempted revocation of his resignation, nor will it reinstate him as head coach of the men's basketball program. That seems pretty final to me. We've got a break for the news. When we come back in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll talk to Michael Swain. We've got What Is Wrong With You, and we've got our big questions for Media Day here on 580 Sports Talk. the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski here, Fulton Caster over there on the other side of the glass. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon. Mix and match week on 580 Sports Talk and Mic'd Up. It's Jake Laban and Dan Lucero on Mic'd Up. Yours truly and Fulton Caster here on 580 Sports Talk. These will be the arrangements for, including today, the next 3 days, as Jake and Dan are on their way down to Arlington, Texas for Big 12 football media days. KU Day tomorrow, K-State Day on Thursday, and, a handful of other schools each of those days, too. We will talk all about KU at Media Day and the latest on the recruiting trail for the Jayhawks with Michael Swain from Fog.net. He'll join us coming up a little bit later on this hour. We've also got today's What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, coming up in a little bit. Been a while since you've had a What Is Wrong With You.
Been a long time, and I'm very excited to be back just for that segment alone.
So we have that coming up here in about 20 minutes. And we'll talk about Big 12 Media Day here in just a second. If you would like to contribute to any of the discussion on today's show, hit us up on the text line. The number, as always, 785-272-9429. And our YouTube channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Just head to youtube.com, go to the search bar, type in Sports on 580. That's all you have to type in. We'll be the first result. And then you can subscribe to us right from the search page. You can check out our entire backlog of videos, check out the live stream today, hop into the comment section, and hang out with us throughout the show today. We've got a few messages here from the YouTube comments. In fact, Mark and Vance both drawing some comparisons for Northwestern to the Jerry Sandusky situation at Penn State. And look, I don't know if anything... Part of me says nothing will ever be quite like that.
Yeah, that was horrid.
But by the same token, I am not in a position where I'm going to rank the severity of various forms of assault and mistreatment. And frankly, it's all bad. So I understand that that trend line 100%. It's sick, man. It's gross. Why would you want to treat people like this? Why would you want to do these things that the players are accused of doing? And I know there is someone who says, it used to be much worse back in my day.
Well, that's also wrong and terrible.
We used to do these other things. It was part of growing up and part of becoming a man. Like, look, if that's what you lived through and you're happy with that experience, more power to you. Fine. From my perspective, that's also pretty messed up that happened 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago. Never should have treated people like this. Never should have been so willing to treat people like this and subject them to just gross behavior. And especially now, we live in a time period in which institutions are much more sensitive about, dang, maybe we shouldn't let people who are in our care or who are a part of our organization or what have you be treated like garbage and feel miserable and need therapy and need to completely change their trajectory in life and be just physically and emotionally exhausted by going to football practice. Like, that's not okay. In my opinion, in Fulton's opinion too, obviously.
I'm right there with you.
And this was the only way it could end for Pat Fitzgerald. There was no other way it could happen. And it sucks because he's meant a lot to that team, meant a lot to a lot of people, but keep your house in order.
Yeah, run a proper program, and this won't happen to you.
The bright side of the college football world right now takes us to Big 12 football media days, multi-day event down at Jerry World in Arlington, Wednesday and Thursday. We will have tons of interviews, tons of player audio, coach press conference audio, coach interviews, all sorts of stuff from Jerry World. You'll hear it both on Mic'd Up with Jake and Dan. You'll hear it here on 580 Sports Talk with us as well over the next couple of days. If you got the opportunity, if we hopped in the truck and drove on down to Arlington, and you got one question each to ask to KU and to K-State, and it could be any individual, it could be the AD, it could be a player, it could be a coach, you get to ask anything to each program. Let's start with Kansas because KU goes first. They're up tomorrow in the Wednesday group. What is the one question you want to have answered? Either because you just think it would be interesting, because you think it's necessary, a necessity to know for this year. What's that one most important question you would have for someone from the KU contingent?
For me, and I think there's a lot of avenues someone could go with what you'd want to know or ask to any member of the KU contingent, whether it be head coach Lance Leipold, athletic director Travis Goff, or any of the players going down there. For me, and this would be for any member of the football program, really, is just, does anything change for them this season now that they have expectations? Because for the first time since Mangino, KU football has expectations. They might not be massive expectations, but for the first time in a while, if KU football goes like 2-10, everyone's going to be stunned and heavily disappointed, which is kind of a weird way to look at it. But like, they were a surprise team last year. They went 6-7. They made it to a bowl game. You're expected to honestly kind of get back there this year, or at least be close. How does it feel to have expectations for kind of the first time in a long time?
I would hope the answer would be that they're excited about it.
That's what I hope too as well.
Because, I mean, if it's suddenly, we're feeling a lot of pressure from that. Ugh. Now, I don't think that would be the case, frankly. I think this team has the mental fortitude to manage that. I think there are plenty of rosters from recent years, honestly, that had they played a lot better and had those kind of expectations, they would not have been able to handle it. I think this group can. I think with this head coach, they can. And I think you'd probably get different answers based on who you asked, right? I mean, Leipold's going to give you the straight facts and the, not have a whole lot of emotion behind it. Whereas I think Jalen Daniels would be very excited about it. I think Devin Neal would give you probably the most fascinating answer because he, more than anyone else from this group, has lived through it. He is from Lawrence. He's 20, 21 years old right now. He's lived through all of the bad times. He was right here in town watching it. He wanted to go to KU more than anything. He has been a part of this as much as anybody. And I think you'd probably get a very interesting answer about what is it like to now have expectations? What is it like to be a part of the group that has those expectations? My question would be for Devin Neal in particular. And I said this, I was cross-talking with Jake and Dan earlier today on Mic'd Up. And I think it would be fascinating to talk to Devin Neal, and you could ask this to Lance Leipold too, just about the plan for the running backs room. But what does it look like with Devin Neal hopefully fully healthy and with Daniel Highshaw coming back? Because Devin Neal did not do a whole lot during spring practice this year. He was really banged up. Our pal Michael, who we'll talk to coming up here in about half an hour, or just less than half an hour, in fact, he wrote and reported extensively about how banged up the running back room was, specifically Neal, during spring practice this year. And last year, after Highshaw went down, he was the bell cow, and he was awesome. Devin Neal was fantastic last year. And most of his best games were later in the year. That wears on you a lot when you're getting fed the ball to that degree. When defenses know how much of a focal point your running back is, that will wear down a tailback pretty quickly. So getting Daniel Highshaw back, one, what does the scheme look like? And two, what is the balance going to look like? I know they would love to have Sevion Morrison get involved at least a little bit more in the running game too. Jalen Daniels can run, obviously. I'm sure there's going to be some run plays for Jason Bean over the course of the year. But I am interested in what does this next step for the running back room look like? And I think part of it also falls on the offensive line. Is that group going to be better blocking for the run this year? Because they were not especially good blocking for the run last year. For the pass, sensational. For the run, not quite as good, even with those really talented players inside and with an extremely talented running back room. So what is that split going to look like between Highshaw and between Neal in terms of number of carries, and how are they going to take that next step? Because we know what Daniels can do with his arm. And I like the wide receivers room. I didn't think I would at the start of last year. I was with the group that said, hey, I like Luke Grimm, but I don't know about this room overall. They were phenomenal last year.
Yeah, they were really good.
Played so far above expectation. So I trust that. I trust some of the option stuff. On an individual basis, I know Highshaw can have good games. I know Neal is a stud. But as a collective, what is it going to look like? Maybe most important, what do you want it to look like? Because as I told Jake and Dan, I want the propaganda. I want the everything is marshmallows and sunshine and rainbows and all of that. I want that. Give that to me, because between now and opening Friday night, I want nothing but hype for this upcoming KU season. And I think that's the one part of the offense I need to see the next step in. I need to see what is the full picture, fully healthy picture going to look like. And I think it could be pretty good. I think it could be great even. I just want to know what specifically to look out for in that regard. Kansas State will go on Thursday. Same principle, same idea here. You get one question. Gene Taylor or Chris Kleiman, Will Howard, and who else is going to be there? Cooper Beebe is going to be there. Kobe Savage. Is it Trayshawn Ward? Is he the other one who's going to be there?
I can't remember
who the other attendee is for K-State. I know I'm going to be mad when I see this, and I didn't have it off the top of my head, but I'm going to pull it up right now so the Big 12 conference can remind me. It doesn't really matter. The general principle is, what would be your one question for the K-State group who is going to be in attendance? And now I can tell you it's Daniel Green. Deuce Green is going to be the other player. My apologies.
Fair enough. For me, it'd be for Will Howard. And with the way his season went last year, where he just all of a sudden got thrust into being a quarterback, and against TCU came on and relieved Adrian Martinez and looked like prime Dan Marino out there, and then looked amazing the rest of the year. For Will Howard, even, what is it like going into this year knowing your QB1? After what last year was like, after knowing what your years at K-State have been like, just what is his feeling going into this season where for even his first time, kind of along the same lines as KU as a program of expectations, for Will Howard, he had to have heard some of the noise about him before last year.
If he listened to this program, he sure did.
If he listened to this program, he heard things you and myself have said about him a lot. What is just his mindset going into this year, knowing this is your room? Like,
for the first time.
Yeah, for the first time, this is your room. You are QB1 of this Kansas State football team coming off a Big 12 title. What is that like for him to be that guy in that room from honestly more off the field perspective? What is it like to be kind of tasked with, you need to be a leader in that room, a leader amongst the entire team, trying to push this team forward? Just what is that like for Will Howard, a spot to where I don't know, and I would love to know from him, did he ever think this would be a spot he would be in? That he would be at this point, the no doubt, unquestioned, you're the starting quarterback of this team, given what his career treachery has been like?
It's fascinating because he was so bad.
He was horrendous. But everything we said was justified at the time.
In terms of what had happened, it was. Yeah. Now, was it fair for me to say he's going to transfer to a G5 school? Maybe a little harsh, but good for him. I am happy for him that he has taken this huge step forward and was incredible last year to the point where there's a bona fide argument. Who is better? Who is the best quarterback in the league? Is it Jalen Daniels or is it Will Howard? That's awesome for both of them, and that certainly includes Will Howard. What is it like with him being no doubt, unquestioned, the leader of that quarterbacks group and having it be his show? And I wonder if it could, and it was like that at the end of last year, even when Adrian Martinez got healthy, it was clear this is Will Howard's show, that Adrian's going to be involved, but this is Will Howard's show. I wonder if there could be, and I don't want to make a complete comparison because they're not the same kind of player, but we saw what Skylar did, what Skylar Thompson did his final season, really his last two seasons, when he had the extra eligibility and when it was all him. It was Skylar, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You get a full year with the number one reps. It is all about you. And he just exploded once he was in that role and he got that comfortability and he became an NFL draft pick. I never in a million years would have thought
I'm with you on that.
And that is such a great story for him and such a great story for Kansas State. I wonder if it could be the same with Will Howard. That, look, there's no Adrian Martinez anymore. Yes, we brought in Avery Johnson and he's an Elite 11 quarterback, superstar recruit, all of that. I know we've got other depth in the quarterback room, but they're away. Avery's going to start next year if you leave for the NFL, okay? That's not a look over your shoulder because that guy's waiting for you. No, you should worry about maybe being in the NFL next year, okay? Not just worrying about this starting job. This is all about you, Will Howard, especially because, and I'll get to this more momentarily, There's no Deuce Vaughn. He is the superstar of the offense now. It is not, well, what do we do to stop Deuce Vaughn and make the rest of the team beat us? No, it's they've got the quarterback. What can he do to beat us? And I am hopeful. I would say my optimistic view of this season is that now that it is undeniably his job, his role, that he can have that Skylar Thompson-like late college career jump. And Will's got several years of eligibility left, I think, at least 2. But he can take that jump, that when you have that weight off you, when you're not looking over your shoulder, you feel more comfortable in, I can make a mistake and it's not going to lead to people either talking badly about me on the radio or on Twitter. It's not going to lead to getting overly criticized by my coaches. They have that faith in me. I should have that faith in myself. I can make this happen. I hope that's what happened. The scary thought is last year was the outlier. And he is more so the quarterback that he was in 20 and 21 than he is the quarterback he was in 22. I'm not saying I expect that, and I certainly do not hope that's the case for Will Howard. But I also think it is entirely fair to worry that that would be the worst case scenario. The most likely scenario is he is who he was for the majority of last season. And if that's the case, K-State's probably going to win 10 games and be in the Big 12 championship game again. If he's better than that, K-State is going to have an outside playoff chance. If he falls back, Treshaun Ward, you better be ready to carry the ball 600 times next year.
Yep, you better ready for 1 billion carries.
But I think those first 2 options I gave are certainly the more likely ones. And I hope that is what happens. I hope that without the stress he is, and I don't know how stressed he felt last year, but without being just the replacement guy, without being trusted as the starter, but there's a package for another guy, he can just be his maximum self. And that sounds like a Tony Orlando quote. But seriously, that he can maximize his own skills, and K-State and the coaching staff can find a way, Colin Klein, Chris Kleiman, et cetera, to maximize what they have in Will Howard. I think I would ask Chris Kleiman just in general, there's no quote-unquote replacing Deuce Vaughn, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Julius Brents, Josh Hayes. Those guys were great. They're NFL draft picks for a reason. Felix Anudike-Uzomah was a first-round pick for a reason. Deuce Vaughn, All-American for a reason. Julius Brents was picked early for all of that, okay? You can't just say, oh, well, now a new guy is filling in. Echo Boydo, there's another one who was a signee, an undrafted free agent signee. A lot of NFL talent on that defense, especially, but on both sides of the ball. Malik Knowles, I believe, signed somewhere. What is the plan to fill in those holes? Not replace the players, not replace those specific skills, but what is the plan to compensate now? Early in the season, it's compensating, and then within a couple of weeks, it becomes that's just what you have. But what does that look like? And how difficult has it been to either adjust or to try to replicate what you lost? I think with Ward, offensively, he's not the same kind of player as Deuce Vaughn, but we've been over it a bunch. People all over college football think he's going to be a star. There's a reason that he was the Big 12 newcomer preseason this year. Preseason newcomer of the year. Let's phrase that correctly. I don't have a whole lot of worries about him in the offense, especially when you've got a quarterback like Howard. I'm more so worried about the wide receivers because that's much more of a mixed bag. Defensively, though, you lost a first-round pick. Big 12 Defense Player of the Year, Felix Anudike-Uzomah. You lost 2 starting cornerbacks. You've got talented players. You've got Brendan Mott. You've got Khalid Duke. You've still got Deuce Green in the linebacker core. You've got a lot of potential on the defensive side, or the defensive back group, I should say. In the secondary, Kobe Savage is obviously back. That helps. But what are you doing to compensate for those losses? And I, for the record, trust that K-State's going to have a better plan to compensate for their losses than maybe any other team in the country is going to compensate for their losses because of who their head coach is, because of who their defensive coordinator is, because of their specialties and how well they work with defensive backs and their knowledge of any position, any role, any sort of coverage that you need in that defensive backs room. I just want to know what it's going to look like and how difficult it has been for the program to say, damn, we got to find someone to replace Josh Hayes. Damn, we got to find someone to replace Julius Brents. Because Brents was awesome. Hayes was so awesome. Good. Felix was awesome. It's hard to replace that much awesomeness in one off season, but we'll see. If you're going to give the benefit of the doubt to anyone, it's got to be K-State.
It has to be, and I think that'd be a great question for them because, yeah, there is a lot of talent K-State has to try and just fill in the gaps for coming up in this next season, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, more on the offensive side. But your best individual player, at least at the college level, you're replacing was on the offensive side of the ball and what you did with Deuce Vaughn. So there's a lot for K-State to replace. I think they can do it. I think you're right. If any team, especially coaching staff, is earning the benefit of the doubt for being able to adjust to losing some talent, it is Kansas State. But there is a lot of NFL talent that left this team this past offseason that they're going to figure out what the plan is going forward.
Really quickly, the most intrigue, I think, at Media Day outside of KU and K-State has to deal with the newcomers. BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. For you, looking at that group as a whole, what's the big question about their first season?
For me, and I would want to ask it to all four of them, preferably all four head coaches, just what is the transition plan? What is your plan for moving up? Because all four of you, two of those head coaches have played at the Power 5 level. Gus Malzahn and Dana Holgorsen. They've been Power 5 head coaches. They've been here before. Scott Satterfield and Scott Satterfield, I mean, that's its own thing. Kalani Sitake, not been a Power 5 head coach.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Satterfield has. But...
Yeah, but I said, he has, but also hasn't. Because that was a mess. So it's just, how do each of them plan to approach this step up into a new world? Historically, when you move from G5 to Power 5, you lose 2 wins based on your previous record. That's the overall historical data part of it. But just what is their plans for moving up in this level, to this different level of competition, to this different travel schedule, to all the changes that come with joining a new conference? Just what is the plan to make sure that this season is successful and you don't have a down year because you are just not prepared for the transition elements of going to a new conference?
I think that's fair. I think my big question overall is, how do they handle the grind of the Big 12 schedule?
Yeah.
Because BYU, you go back to BYU just this past year, okay? And they've played tough teams before, right? I mean, They played, Stanford wasn't good, but they played Stanford. They played on the road at Liberty, and as much as I don't like Liberty, that is a tough game. They played Baylor. They played Oregon. Utah State is a tough team out of the Mountain West. They played Notre Dame. They played Arkansas last year. That's tough. I'm not especially worried about BYU, although they have at times played some easier opponents. They played Utah Tech last year.
Yeah.
Not especially difficult, formerly known as Dixie State, if you don't know who Utah Tech is. They played a bad South Florida team. They, as an independent, have scheduled a little bit differently. I'm willing to say they will probably be okay. Will the others? Cincinnati was a playoff team deservedly 2 years ago. They should be able to handle it, but this is a much different team than that was. This is a much different team than they were even this past season. Can Houston handle that? With all the struggles Houston had last year with an American Conference schedule, can they handle the grind of 12 games in 13 weeks against the kind of teams that Big 12 teams face and that Big 12 teams are? Same with UCF. That's my concern, and that's not necessarily a question I would ask a player or an administrator, although maybe you could ask a coach that. Hey, Gus, what do you make of this? As someone, Gus Malzahn, who's coached in the SEC before and had a lot of success, played for a national championship in the SEC, what do you make of the adjustment from the American Athletic Conference schedule to the Big 12 schedule? What is it going to take for your team to be successful with that adjustment? I think that's certainly curious, and I think that's a big part of why every team that's a newcomer to the league was picked in the bottom half of the league this year, specifically 3 in the bottom 4 of the league this year. We're going to talk to Michael Swain about Media Day and all things KU a little bit later on this hour. Right now, though, after the break, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You coming up on 580 Sports Talk.
Hell?
What is wrong with you time here on 580 Sports Talk? Two new stories going head to head today, and they'll try to take down the TSA officers at MIA, Miami International Airport, who were stealing from passengers as they went through security, smiling at them and distracting them, and then taking money out of their wallets and stuff out of their bags as they were going through. There's cameras everywhere. You're TSA! Come on, people. Our What Is Wrong With You, by the way, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Fulton, you have the honors today. Why don't you go first for What Is Wrong With You?
Brendan, we are headed to Las Vegas, Nevada for my story.
All
a
right.
place that is a great spot for absolutely crazy behavior. As a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department police report recounts an incident that started with a fight at one casino on the Strip and ended at a different casino with a man standing atop a card game table, wholly nude and exposing himself to others.
Nice.
At approximately 11:22 p.m. on Sunday, officers from the Las Vegas Metro Police Department received a report of a fight near the Bird Bar at the Flamingo Hotel and Casino in Vegas. When they arrived, the fight had ended and only one person remained at the scene. Witnesses told investigators that a man had been attacked by a person later identified as Brian Danzlichik of West Babylon, New York. Video from the scene shows Danzlichik engaging in an unprovoked attack on top of the person who only had one leg. And
I feel like that is an unnecessary piece of this report.
It does. But also, you attacked a one-legged man. You're a terrible person. After being pulled off the person, Danzlichik ran to the Link Hotel, and while there, security officers told him that he had been seen removing his clothing, and then he went to the Harrah's Las Vegas Casino, where reports indicate that while there, he ran completely naked through the Link to Harrah's, where he climbed atop a poker table and began flaunting his genitals to all who passed, including exposing his genitals at the front and the genitals at the back. Security was able to take him into custody. He was escorted to a holding area where police say he was completely nude, covered with only a blanket. According to police, he appeared to be in an altered mental state and was cooperative.
Yeah, you don't say.
And as the investigation continued and concluded, Danzlichik became more lucid but did not remember the incident. He's been taken to Clark County Detention Center, where he faced charges of disorderly conduct, indecent exposure, and battery.
What kind of drugs do you think this dude took?
I don't know, but it had to be something really good.
Apparently. Yeah, I mean, this seems
he got
like...
in a fight with a one-legged man, ran to a different casino, got naked, and started doing the helicopter on a poker table.
Do you know how wild and out of pocket you have to be wild for Vegas standards?
Incredibly so. You have to be insane to be wild for Las Vegas.
Goodness gracious, man. This is gross. No one wants to see that.
No.
I promise you. No one wants to see it.
No, not a soul.
Ugh. Gross. What was his name? Brian?
Brian Danzlichik.
Get out of my face, Brian. Literally, get that out of my face, Brian. My story is going to take us to the friendly skies.
Okay.
United Airlines Flight 20 from Houston to Amsterdam, which had to be diverted to Chicago because of an unruly passenger. It was diverted this past week because the passenger seated in seat 11G, which is business class, had a meltdown over not having his first choice of meal available.
Oh, my God.
After removing the passenger and refueling at O'Hare, the flight landed 3.5 hours late. An aviation watchdog on Twitter who goes by the name John NYC shared internal United communication showing that the diversion was due to, quote, disruptive passenger on board, seat 11G, threat level 1. That's the lowest level of threat, but they would not have chosen to divert the flight, which delayed it again 3.5 hours, and you have to pay the crew more when they work that much more, unless the passenger was extremely unruly. According to an insider who reached out to John NYC, the man appeared to be intoxicated, but it was because he got drunk at the airport, not on the plane. So you can't even blame the flight crew because they didn't have enough time to give him enough drinks for him to get intoxicated. They also had to dump the fuel. So they wasted money, extra to spend on the crew. They had to land at O'Hare. They wasted 3.5 hours, and they wasted essentially an entire plane's worth of fuel.
Insane.
All because this dude complained about his meal.
What a loser.
If you're forcing me to spend an extra 3.5 hours at an airport or on an airplane or on a tarmac, not getting to Europe, I am going to fight you. I don't care if you are inebriated. I don't care if you are in an altered state. You and I are going through hand-to-hand combat, and guess what? I'm mad, and I am going to win. I am going to win that fight, and I will not have any mercy. Beg the man upstairs for mercy, not me. I was supposed to be there 3.5 hours ago, and I am PO'd, brother. Who you got today?
I'm going to go with our guy who screwed up an entire plane because my tiebreaker goes to he ruined the most people's day because they had no choice. Our naked man did ruin some days, but you could start dispersing to other parts of the casino and run away from it. These people were trapped and had 3.5 hours of their life taken away from them because this drunk idiot didn't like his food.
That is the fair tiebreaker when you ruin more people's day. Like, my day would be ruined if some dude started shaking his manhood in front of me.
He did. My day is more ruined if you are diverting my flight to an entirely different city and you've cost me 3.5 extra hours of travel. And they're both under the influence, so that tiebreaker goes out the window.
But does that beat the TSA agents who stole from passengers?
Absolutely not.
No.
You're working TSA and you're stealing from people. You're going to get caught.
No, I'm with you. 20, 22, and 33 years old. 33-year-old, you got to know better.
Oh, you have to.
And you worked for TSA. There's cameras everywhere. That's kind of the whole point. And that is our winner again in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. That's metal cut to order when you need it at Top City Metal Supply, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field on South Topeka Boulevard. Michael Swain of Fog.net joins us next on 580 Sports Talk.
The goal is to win championships, pure and simple, one day at a time.
That's what made a difference today in the game.
I was hoping that was vodka.
Dollar signs.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
What a scene in Lawrence, Kansas tonight.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks better than anybody, and he does so for Fog.net, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Head to Fog.net for all of Michael's coverage of KU, and you can find him on Twitter at mswain247. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, are you en route to beautiful Arlington, Texas?
En route, I'm sitting here in my hotel room. I just checked in a few minutes ago, so getting ready for all the fun that will be tomorrow.
Which part of Arlington is your favorite? Is it the gigantic buildings that are all steel and concrete, or all of the other things that are all steel and concrete?
I like the big thing that fits over 60,000 people. That's probably my favorite part of Arlington, and probably the only part of Arlington that actually matters outside of maybe Texas Live.
I would say the last time I was there, I think the last time I was there in person was 2 years ago. It was 2021, at least for media day purposes. I kind of want to go to the Six Flags. It's right there. There's a ride that goes right over the interstate. I kind of wish we could take like a midday media member trip to the Six Flags.
Well, I know someone that wants to go to Six Flags really bad, Jordan Geske, who covers the program for the Topeka Capital Journal. He's been on me about wanting to go to Six Flags today. And I don't know if you guys have seen, but it's pushing, in the 90s here. And I don't think that sounds like a great afternoon here. Sitting in the sun on a hot ride.
Yeah, but a little breeze in your face, get a little wind in your hair as you're on the ride. I think the breeze from the rides might feel good, Michael.
No, I like the air conditioning in my hotel room. How about that?
Fair enough. No, that is definitely fair. Well, we appreciate you joining us from down in the heart of Texas. A lot to get to on the KU football front. We will start with Media Day itself. You've got a piece up right now over at fog.net. Your 3 biggest questions for Media Day and things that you'd like to hear from the KU contingent that's down there. Let's run through some of these. And the big one that stood out to me that you wrote about, Michael, is KU keeping up the momentum that they have had this offseason. There's a lot of hype around the program. The recruiting momentum has been incredible. We've gone over that so much over the last several weeks, last couple of months, really. What do you expect to hear from Lance Leipold when he gets asked that question coming up tomorrow? How important it is to keep that momentum going into the 2023 season for KU?
Yeah, I think it's something he'll have to acknowledge, at least the importance of doing it. Now, I think he would probably argue that separating kind of the 3 departments, and I would, I kind of consider these probably 3 different arms of a football program, right? You've got the on-field product that takes place every Saturday, right? That is above all else, right? That's the most important thing. But feeding into that, right, is recruiting, right? How well are you bringing in high school recruits? How good is the talent you are bringing in to develop over the course of multiple years? And then what's the infrastructure look like, right? And I think we've seen Kansas invest a lot more time and effort into that infrastructure, whether that be through improving the football facility, the early progress on getting things ready to upgrade the stadium, the coaches' contracts, right? All these things behind the scenes right now, whether it be recruiting, whether it be support, there's a lot of that going on. And now it's a question of, okay, can the on-field product continue to take a step in the right direction to where this time next year, we're talking about Kansas taking another step forward, or maybe it's not bowl eligibility, or maybe it's, hey, can Kansas compete for a title? Can Kansas compete for a New Year's Six Bowl? One of these higher profile next steps that a program takes. Now, obviously, I think Lance Leipold would point to say, hey, maybe progress isn't always linear. You're not always going to be taking a step forward every single year. And I think you'd argue between year 1 and year 2, there was a pretty big leap forward in terms of the on-field results. So, Lance Leipold is very calculated with the way he talks about these things, but even being around the program, for a year and a half now, you hear and what Lance Leipold says, and you can kind of read between the lines. So I'm interested to see what he kind of says and the way he wants to frame that, because even he would acknowledge that it's important that Kansas puts together a good product on the field, but maybe how he frames the importance of that helping the other parts of the program that then feed into each other over time.
Michael Swain is our guest, covers the Kansas Jayhawks for fog.net and 24/7 Sports. That's where you can go find all the best coverage of all things KU. You can follow Michael as well on Twitter at mswain247. It's Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. The other big question from your list that I think is the most important if you want to talk about linear improvement and improvement at all from last year, we know the offense is going to be good. I think KU's got the best quarterback in the conference, maybe the best running backs room, among the best offensive lines. The offense should be great. And frankly, I don't think the special teams could be a whole lot worse with the kicking operation. That leaves the defense. And we all know the struggles for this defense. The secondary, a lot of talent. Some really good players in the linebacker core. Rich Miller, Craig Young among them. That defensive front, Michael, has to be better this year. They need to be able to stuff the run better. They need to find a way, now without Lonnie Phelps, to get after the quarterback. Where is the defensive improvement going to come from? That's the way you phrased it over at fog.net.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what you think. Where is that improvement going to show up this year based on the roster KU has?
Well, it's one of these deals, right, where I think it's kind of so fascinating that you can really cut it in half, where you look at the front 4 and say, okay, these are all new players. Is the improvement going to come from them? Where you look at the overall athletic ability of those players, and it is so much better and so much more upside than I think what Kansas had last year, right? You look at the starting group, Phelps, Sam Burt, Caleb Sampson, and Malcolm Lee, right? I'd argue that basically outside of Lonnie Phelps, KU improved athletically at those positions, right? The 2 defensive tackle spots and strong side defensive end. Now, the question is, okay, a lot of these players that they're going to rely on this year, right? Even someone like Devin Phillips, who I think widely is considered to be a starter. He's not played a ton of Power 5 football. What are those growing pains going to look like this year, right? Are those guys going to be able to hit the ground running? And so I think if you want to point to them and say that's where the improvement comes from, their consistency, their ability to make big splash plays, I can't disagree with you, because athletically, I think they're so much more talented and so much closer to what a Power 5 defensive line should look like. Now, on the other side, I think Lance Leipold might say, hey, well, look at what we return in the linebacking core, right? The 3 starters, and I mentioned athleticism on the defensive front. Well, someone like J.D. Brown, a linebacker there, kind of being the first linebacker off the bench, athletically, he's a step forward and a step above what they had last year in Lorenzo McCaskill and Eric Gilliard. But then you look at the secondary and you return your 2 starters, and then you return your 2 safeties as well, and Kenny Logan and O.J. Burroughs. And so if you want to go out there and say, okay, KU's front 4 is going to have some growing pains, but the improvement's going to come actually at the second and third level because those players have another year in the program. Right now, these guys are all in kind of their third years playing for Kansas, where you'd really expect them to know where to be and where everyone else should be. So I just think it's so fascinating if you're going to try and pinpoint where that improvement is going to come from. You're kind of almost in 2 different frames of mind with it.
Michael, kind of moving to more of a conceptual question here with the going down to Big 12 Media Days for KU football. This is the first year in quite some time, honestly, since maybe the Mangino era, that KU has expectations entering a season. Now, those expectations might not be, 7-5, 8-4, compete to the top half of the Big 12. They might be just as simple as, can you get 6 wins again? Can you go to back-to-back bowl games? But overall, this is still a team now, especially the offensive side, to where people are going to be paying attention to them. They're going to be thinking Kansas should be more than just this plucky 3-win team that, might get blown out by the big guys, occasionally hang, close with the medium teams, and, their one win will come against an FCS team. How do you think KU is going to manage those expectations? And particularly from the top, leading with Lance Leipold, how does he need to try and maybe help direct the flow with the team this year so they don't get caught up in any potential pressure, any potential weight from the fact that for the first time in a while, KU is kind of expected to be a fringe, if not guaranteed, bowl team at 6 wins?
Yeah, so I think if you go back to last year, I think a lot of what the messaging was over the first kind of 5 weeks of the season, which was, Lance Leipold won a lot of games at Wisconsin Whitewater. And even the guys he was with at Buffalo, right? Mike Nowitzki, Rich Miller, Michael Ford, guys like that have been around teams that have won games and won consistently year over year. And I honestly don't even think it's so much what Lance Leipold can say, because I think the best programs you see in college football have a great head coach, but they're player-led, they're player-driven. And I think having players like those guys that have been at Buffalo, even someone like Craig Young, who's been at Ohio State, to even someone like Jalen Daniels, who, granted, has not looked at freshman season and time at Kansas, right? The record itself is not going to be super impressive, but the desire to week over week continue to improve. And I think the leadership group, the leadership council there, I think is going to be able to be the driving force, because the coaches can only do so much, right? They're the ones that make the game plans, right? They're the ones that considerably, help set the program up, but it's on the players to deliver, right? And I think having that sort of leadership where even after KU started 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, those same players are there every single Monday saying we have to be better. We have to continue to improve. This is not good enough. And I think those are sort of the things that I think would maybe give people encouragement that, hey, Kansas can deal with expectations, like you said, right? The belief that the over-under, right? If you look at Vegas, it's 6.5 at some places, right? That's very high, to have a Vegas over-under like that. And I think it's going to be on the players, and it's going to be on those guys that have been in this situation before where there are expectations, and their ability to drive the team forward and make sure that some of those younger guys know that, hey, this is not good enough. Like starting 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, it's not good enough. You got to continue to win and show up and put an effort every single week.
On a recruiting front for KU, Harrison Utley, a commit for the Kansas Jayhawks out of Norman, posted on his Twitter today that he had received a new offer from Oklahoma. And normally you hear of a Norman kid getting an offer to get a scholarship to go to Oklahoma. Well, it's a foregone conclusion they're going. That's what most of those kids growing up in that area do. But Utley, in his post, reaffirms his commitment to the Jayhawks and says that despite that, his dream school essentially saying, hey, you can come play football for us, he's going to honor his commitment to the Jayhawks. What does just that mean for program momentum, even that KU in any other year might have had their recruit, for lack of a better word, poached at that point because just the dream opening came? What does that mean for KU and their standing in the college football hierarchy and in the Big 12 hierarchy, that Utley is able to get this offer from Oklahoma, a school he openly says was his dream school, but yet he's going to stay firm with the Jayhawks?
Yeah. So I think this is one of these situations where I think it's a tone-setting decision because you look at the class that Kansas has. A lot of these guys had other opportunities, right? Other Power 5 offers that they could have gone and taken up. And I think for someone like Harrison Utley to pass up the opportunity to play, well, again, right? You mentioned he's from Norman. His mom works for the University of Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. And he's going to stick with his commitment to Kansas. And I think it's one of these deals where this is a question I've gotten a lot, right? Can this class stick together through signing day? And I think this class is probably more equipped and the staff is more equipped to keep this class together through signing day because of the relationships. And because I think of the mutual understanding of what commitment means, right? These guys give their commitment to Kansas, right? The coaching staff make sure that they understand, they know what that means, right? When other schools come calling, right, you have to understand what you are committing to in Kansas, the vision, the future of the program, the upward trajectory, those sort of things. And so for someone to come out and I think publicly talk about it like that, right, to be upfront in saying that this time last year, I think Harrison Utley probably would have dreamed of going to Oklahoma. And how could you blame him, right? I think it's like a situation like Devin Neal, right? Kansas offered him early, but Oklahoma didn't for Harrison Utley. And for them to come in late, I think it shows that, hey, I think Kansas would argue, hey, man, we offered you back in September of last year. Oklahoma's had you on campus multiple times, didn't offer you, and all of a sudden they miss on a couple of guys and they think they can go to you as a backup plan, right? Kansas would argue you're not a backup plan here. You were a big priority, first offensive line commit. That's huge. And so I think it's a big tone-setting decision because I think over the course of the next months, right, other schools are going to come in and try and get a feel for what's going on in KU's class. Are these talented players willing to look elsewhere? And I think for someone like Harrison Utley to pass up playing for his hometown team, I think that's going to send a message not only to, I think, the guys that are committed, but I think also just the staff that he is on board and on board with the vision, which, again, I think is just a big deal overall just for KU recruiting in general.
Michael Swain of Fog.net joining us for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, just two quick hitters for you, and then we'll let you go and appreciate, again, the time as always. Number one, from the four players who are going to be at Media Day for KU, Jalen Daniels, Devin Neal, Rich Miller, and Kobe Bryant, you are the most excited, or not Kobe Bryant, who am I forgetting? Who else is going to be there? Is it Kobe?
Kenny. No, Kenny.
Kenny Logan, that's who it is. Thank you. Kobe, Kenny, I was close. It was close enough anyway. Of those four, the one you are most excited to talk to face-to-face is who?
I always enjoy talking to Rich Miller. I think he's a very blunt person and is pretty straightforward with things. And considering the fact that he was not here last year, right, I think that it's going to be really interesting to get his perspective on not only, I think, being here, but also where the program is at. Because he was with Lance Leipold at Buffalo. He decided to come back for the extra year. And I just think his story is pretty fascinating. So I'm really excited, I think, to talk to him. And then I think just Jalen Daniels probably my second because he's a guy that was here last year, but a lot has changed since this time last year, right? Mm-hmm. Interested to pick up on kind of the swagger and see what it's like.
Last thing, outside of the KU contingent, the person or personnel you are most excited to hear from tomorrow is who?
Probably Mike Gundy, because there's a lot that's been going on with the program there. And I think Gundy is a guy that shoots people straight. So I'm always interested to listen to Mike Gundy talk, especially after a season in which the thing he does not like, the transfer portal, and name, image, and likeness, came in and kind of wrecked his program. So I'm fascinated to see what he's like and see what he thinks about his team, because they got a good transfer class coming in, but I think we've seen, right, not the transfers sometimes take a year or two to be able to make an impact. So interested to hear what he has to say.
I'm sure he will be in his normal, upbeat, cheery mood for sure. I'm sure the old Mike Gundy will be there. Michael Swain, live from Arlington, Texas, joining us for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Follow him on Twitter at mswain247. And for all of his coverage of all things KU, football, basketball, recruiting, and of course, Media Day, head over to fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Michael, enjoy your time down in Arlington. Get plenty of free samples of Old Trapper beef jerky, and we'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Sounds great. Talk to you then.
That is Michael Swain from fog.net. Phenomenal stuff covering KU on Jayhawk Weekly today. It's a good group for KU. There have been, and I'm not going to name names or try to make any declarations here. There have been years where the contingent has been, that's fine. Like, who else were you going to bring? But I'm excited to hear from these guys. I love listening to Jalen Daniels talk and that positivity. Devin Neal's the hometown guy. Been a huge fan of his the entire time he's been at school, even before that as a recruit. Excited to hear him. Kenny Logan's been such an important piece for this program for so long. And Rich Miller's a good quote, too. So I'm excited for it. KU tomorrow at Media Day. K-State coming up on Thursday. We have to get to a break for the news. We'll lead off the 5 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk with today's headlines coming up after this on 580 WIBW. on 580 Sports Talk today. Brendan Dworzinski, Fulton Caster with you. Mix and match week on 580 Sports Talk and Mic'd Up. Two of us together today, tomorrow, Thursday. Jake and Dan together today, tomorrow, Thursday. The two latter gentlemen in the group, they are on their way to Arlington, Texas for Big 12 football media days coming up over the next 2 days. We'll have plenty of audio from KU tomorrow, K-State on Thursday, other coaches, other players from around the Big 12. Hopefully some national media folks are going to be there. The beef jerky guy from Old Trapper is going to be there. Everybody is going to be there. Maybe we'll get Commissioner Yormark on at some point. We used to get the most electrifying man in sports entertainment today, Bob Bowlesby. I guess he's not really in sports entertainment today. I don't really know what Bob Bowlesby's up to.
Yeah, I have no idea what he's doing now.
I don't really care because I really could not possibly miss him less. I don't even know if his Wikipedia is updated. No, it's really not. Did you know he has 4 kids?
Nope.
And his wife's name is Candace. There you go.
Oh.
Learned that from Wikipedia. I don't know what he's doing now. I'm sure he's enjoying retirement, fishing, being electrifying, doing whatever he's doing now. He would come and speak to us. I remember talking to him back in 2021, and I have a vivid memory of him lying to us and telling us something about the conference that clearly wasn't true and had already been reported on, but that's fine. He, got to do what you got to do. Best interest of the business and all that. I understand, even if I really don't like it. But hopefully we'll get Brett Yormark at some point. We will hear from him for sure at some point coming up tomorrow on one of the two programs. We know for sure coming up in this final hour of 580 Sports Talk, we've got our daily headlines here in just a moment. Kadarius Toney wiling out on social media today, or maybe it was yesterday. It came to light today. Not great, and I don't really understand it, but also I think Giants fans need to chill the hell out. So we'll get to that coming up in a little bit. Plus, All-Star game tonight, American League versus National League. Who you got? We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. Of course, we're taking your texts. You know the number, 785-272-9429. And additionally, your YouTube comments. YouTube channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Go to YouTube, search Sports on 580. That's all you need. You don't even need to search for the WIBW part. Just Sports on 580. We're the first result. You can subscribe right there. Make sure you subscribe, of course. And then come check out the live stream, video streaming the show every single day. You can also jump into the comment section, go check the back catalog of shows, and check out all of our video content online on our YouTube channel, Sports on 580 WIBW. But without further ado, Fulton, let's get to today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. And the first one for me, Rob Manfred in the news. He speaking at the All-Star game because that's what the commissioner does. And expansion, it sounds like, is coming in the near future. You know what expansion does for professional sports leagues? There's, I guess, a few different ways you could answer this.
I mean, you could possibly say that there's a chance that it gets you into more markets, potentially. Expand that economic footprint a little bit.
There's an important word, economic. It's about money. You expand, you get more money. You relocate, you get new stadiums, you get more money. Money, money, money. That's what this is about. And if the MLB thinks... Money! If the MLB thinks that they can improve their bottom line, they can make more dough by expanding, guess what they're going to do? They're going to expand and they're going to go to 32 teams. And Rob Manfred today, while speaking in Seattle at the All-Star game, said that after, in fact, per Bob Nightingale, oh God, always a risk to say that, but per Bob Nightingale of USA Today, he said that quickly after the Tampa Bay and Oakland situations are resolved, MLB will put together an expansion committee to discuss increasing the league from 30 teams to 32 teams. A couple of thoughts here. Quickly is significant. That tells me they want to get this done. That tells me that if they're going to hurry and do things, MLB doesn't hurry unless it feels obligated by money to do it quickly. And you might be annoyed by me saying money, money, money over and over again. I'm just trying to point out that's what is driving this. Not competitive balance, not evening out the leagues again, not, this will give a chance for the Astros to go back to the NL. No, it's just about the cash flow. That's all this is about. I'm not saying that it was on the table for the Astros to go back to the NL, even though they should be, and it was weird that they got moved to the AL, but that's a decade plus old problem at this point. The Tampa Bay situation, second point, we probably shouldn't forget about because they want a new stadium. Remember a couple years ago when there were talks about what if we did halftime in Puerto Rico and halftime in Montreal?
Yeah, that was a really, really weird time.
Very dumb. Very dumb.
Stupid idea.
And I actually have proof of what happened in a hypothetical expansion committee meeting. I have already heard. I know exactly what is going to happen, Fulton. All right. Will this venture make us more money? Yes. We have decided we are expanding the league to 32 teams. Done. Settled.
Finished.
It is good for the league's bottom line, and thus we are going to have more teams in the league. Pretty darn simple. This sounds like, again, you want to talk about reading between the lines. This sounds like something that is obviously going to happen. A lot of cities are hoping to get a team. It'd be very funny if Oakland got a team, to be completely honest with you. I know Portland will be interested. We heard just a few weeks ago that Salt Lake City is interested. Nashville has been pushing really, really aggressively to get a baseball team in recent years. Montreal, some would say, deserve to get a team back. I have seen some people on Twitter today say, put a team in Puerto Rico. That team would have the best environment in all of Major League Baseball. No doubt about that. I don't know where the teams are going to go, but it feels like this is pretty much inevitable at this point. And I would imagine it's going to be, I don't know how long the Tampa Bay situation is going to take. The A's are going to be moved as soon as they possibly can get out of Oakland. They are going to be. I would imagine within 5 years, we've got an announcement of 2 new teams.
I would say probably about that long because Oakland's situation is all but finalized.
Mm-hmm.
We're down to owner vote for the Oakland situation and Jeff Fisher wanting to move that team to John Fisher wanting to move that team to Las Vegas. Now, the weird part with Oakland is where do they play while the stadium's being built? Because the lease at the Coliseum ends in 2024. And the new Vegas stadium will be ready till 2026 at the absolute earliest, if not later.
There's also no way they're going to play another year in Oakland. After all this, you cannot.
You cannot. So my on that front, do they just become a barnstorming team? Do they just live a life on the road a la the teams of the 1930s? I don't know what the Oakland A's do. And then I'm more convinced than ever. I don't think Tampa is leaving Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think the Rays are leaving that area. I don't know what they're going to do for a new stadium because they have been asking for something to replace the Trop for Lord knows how long now. But nothing has come of it. Like, the most we had was that weird, we're going to play half in Montreal, half in Puerto Rico thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, outside of, so I think whenever this is done, we're going to get expansion news. Nashville's going to be one of the sites. I don't know what the other site's going to be. But you got one stadium situation that's kind of done. You just got to vote on it. And then you got to figure out what the team's going to do for their, 3-4 years while their stadium's being built. And the other place is just simply, what's the plan? Like, do you just build a new place for Tampa Bay in St. Pete? Like, do you build a place near Clearwater? Do you demolish the Trop and build something on its bones? Do you move further south in Florida? Do you move up north to Jacksonville, maybe? What do you do? Like, what? All I want to know out of all this is really telling me at this point, what is the plan for the Rays? Because they're the only ones that are like, they are an impediment to expansion getting the ball rolling because they want to get their current team settled.
Mm-hmm.
But I go to, what is Tampa's plan? Because they have not given us any plan. They've given us nothing.
I've got a suggestion for you for the A's.
Okay.
Do you know what A's attendance is this year? What their average attendance is this year?
Oh, gotta be like 5,000.
So officially, and I'm pulling this number from, if Baseball Reference will load for me, I will pull it. Okay, well, ESPN popped up first. Officially, the number is 10,000.
Yeah, that's a lie.
That's not true.
That's a bold-faced lie.
I would say it's closer to, say, 3,000 than 10,000. You know where you can put 3,000 people to watch a baseball game?
The Oakland Airport.
Earl Wilson Stadium, the home field of the UNLV Rebels. The A's should have to play where UNLV plays for 3 years. That's my suggestion.
I mean,
they could fill it to capacity with their current
they
fan base.
could.
That's what I would do. Earl E. Wilson Stadium in Paradise, Nevada.
They have to go play at the home of the UNLV Rebels.
I'll
be honest, I didn't even know they had a baseball team.
That I wasn't sure if they did either.
No, I did know that. You know why I know that? You know, I'm going to confirm this before I continue making our comment. I'm going to confirm what I think I know before I
share it with the class.
Yeah. Got to make sure my facts are straight. Yes, I was correct about this fact. Do you know who is an alum of UNLV, the University of Nevada at Las Vegas?
Plenty of people.
Do you know what major league player is an alum of UNLV? I can give you more hints if you need them.
I do not. I know of two players from Las Vegas. Chris Bryant and Bryce Harper are both from Las Vegas, but Bryce Harper didn't.
He was drafted to high school, and Chris Bryant went to San Diego.
And he went to USD. Yeah. No, I do not know who it is.
I'll give you one more hint. He is a Kansas City Royal.
Oh, God. He's a Royal. Oh, geez. I have no idea. Is it Kyle Isbell?
It is Kyle Isbell. Kyle Isbell went to UNLV.
I should have known right off the rip it was going to be Kyle Isbell. Different time slot, still extremely on brand.
Listen, my brand will never change despite what time slot I'm in here.
But one way or the other, expect in the near-ish future, a few years probably, but the near-ish future, we will have 32 Major League Baseball teams.
At some point in the nearest future. Next up, my first headline for us on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. You remember when Qatar's investment fund decided they wanted to buy a little bit of a stake in the Washington Wizards' big old monumental thing that's their own?
Yes, the company that owns the Wizards and the Capitals, the NHL team.
Yeah, and the Mystics are owned by this group as well. Monumental Sports and Entertainment. I was making a monumental joke, and yet it was the right company. Well,
I thought you knew that.
I didn't. I was just making a joke, but apparently my joke landed. So that's real good work by me. We go to one of the most electrifying commissioners in professional sports, Adam Silver, who said in a statement earlier today, he has no plans to let sovereign wealth funds control NBA teams. To which, just in short, he says, there is no pathway in the foreseeable future for sovereign wealth funds to become the controlling owners of an NBA franchise. Under the current rules, the controlling owner of an NBA team is to own at least 15% of the franchise, and any sovereign wealth fund can only have a passive investment in a team of no greater than 5%. That all being said, and the fact that Adam Silver said this today, quote, "It's very important to us that there be a person in charge, and this is independent of sovereign wealth funds. I think that in terms of the connection with the community, the connection with the players and their other partners in the league." All that being said, all that in mind, Brendan, over under 6.5 years till a sovereign wealth fund owns a controlling interest in an NBA team. How quickly does Adam Silver go back on these words because the money is too big and he has no spine?
Under.
I'll say under.
So, owning a controlling stake and actually being at the controls, two different things.
Very correct, sir.
We've beaten this over the head before on this program, but we have said it, and it was true when they passed this in the new CBA, and it was true when the Qatari Investment Fund invested in the company that owns those three professional teams in Washington, D.C. This is a bad idea. This is opening a can of worms that you cannot repack, that you cannot refill, a door you cannot close again, a window you cannot close, whatever idiom you want to use. You cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube here. There's another one for you. This is only going to become more prevalent, especially with your sports that have a bigger international flavor to them, like the NBA. I would imagine that sovereign wealth funds from other countries are going to try to get involved with the NFL at some point, maybe Major League Baseball at some point. Already have seen it with now the NBA, WNBA, and NHL. This is going to keep happening. The fact that this was allowed by the NBA, I mean, they showed their whole backside by making this agreement because no one would have batted an eye. No one would have said a thing if they just went business as usual. But they had to slide in that part about, well, now for the first time, actually foreign governments can own shares of teams. how could you possibly read that and say, oh, yeah, that's smart. That's really good. That's a really freaking good idea. Look at Newcastle United. Look at Manchester City. Look at all these teams all over the world in soccer. Look at Live Golf, okay? Pre-merger, or maybe not merger, because that's currently being discussed on the floor of the Senate chambers. The U.S. Senate chambers, I should clarify, not the Kansas Senate. I just don't know how you could have possibly thought this was a good idea. And it's going to happen. Like, it's here. I believe it is Saudi Arabia. I don't want to be wrong about that. I believe it's the Saudi Arabian PIF. They're super involved in F1 racing. I mean, it's coming. It's here now. It took a split second between that being allowed by the NBA and a foreign wealth fund immediately buying a share of this company and being a part of NBA and NHL ownership, and WNBA for that matter. But the W is owned by the NBA, so it's all kind of one thing, but that's beside the point. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. I would put it at 5 years. I would probably take the under. It's going to keep happening, and they're going to have more influence. Congrats, Adam Silver. Congrats on still riding the momentum of that one time you kicked Donald Sterling out of the league and have built this whole reputation of being a great commissioner, even though you've done nothing but fail since. Good job. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, this was just such a the moment they put the carve out in there, you knew. You're right. They're opening Pandora's box of that point of you are going to start allowing a thing you shouldn't really allow, but you cannot put this away because the more there is less of a chance that you get sovereign wealth funds out of your league, then there's going to be more that begin to enter your league and want to get more and more involved in. Listen, there's a whole other debate to be had over why these wealth funds are investing in sports and the motivations behind that, and all. There is a entire, deeper, messier conversation to be had about that particular part. But in the simplest form, it's just not great to let nations own your teams. It's just not a great situation to be in and should not have been a thing the NBA ever allowed. But Adam Silver saw what was happening and went, that's just a lot of money to be made. Let's just see what happens. And has now decided to open this door, and he can't go back on it. And he'll try and still to sit on the goodwill of like the 2 good things he's done over the 80 bad things he's done. And he'll never have to answer to it because that's just the way it goes. I wonder when and if the NFL starts allowing sovereign wealth funds in. I don't know if they ever will because that ownership group is so closed off. Like that community of like for any sporting franchise or professional sports league, the NFL probably is the most closed off, closed doors, gate kept ownership community
because they are probably the most egotistical.
Oh, 100%.
Which is saying something when you look at I don't know if Major League Baseball owners are actually just egotistical. I just think they're the worst.
Major League Baseball owners
for lack
are
of a better phrase.
Like Major League Baseball owners own their franchises just because they want to make money. Like they own their sports franchise like,
it's just a toy.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just a toy for them to occasionally make some bucks. Whereas like NFL, like that is a status symbol for those guys. They are tied into, well, like Jerry Jones. How much of Jerry Jones's personality and image is just, well, I own the Dallas Cowboys.
Literally all of it?
Yeah. Like
on 99% of it, probably.
Like he's not a public figure, but like Clark Hunt. How much of Clark Hunt public image is, well, I'm the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs?
98%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Other sports leagues, the owners sometimes have an other look to them.
Yeah,
the NFL, they're just like, no, what we are I am the owner of this team.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. It's bad, man. This is
not
bad.
Good.
And I know Adam Silver is saying that, but why should I trust Adam Silver?
I don't trust that. I don't trust that man as far as I can throw him.
No, I have absolutely no reason to trust him. Speaking of people I don't trust, let's go to an NFL headline that actually first was whispered about this past Friday, but has since been reported on more over the last 48 hours or so. Michael Lombardi, who worked for years in NFL front offices, said during a guest spot this past Friday on the Pat McAfee show that he believes the Rams tried, quote, with a lot of effort, unquote, to trade Matthew Stafford this offseason. Here's part of what Lombardi said. Quote, when his option bonus was getting ready to kick in, they attempted with a lot of effort to trade him. Any team could have had him. The problem was you had to absorb the $59 million hit, and the Rams knew there was no way around the $59 million. They couldn't get around it unless they traded him, and somebody else took it. So Michael Lombardi, who this is the person I do not trust. I do not think he is a very reliable insider. I do not think he has very good sources. He was around in the NFL. He's been an NFL lifer. I don't know why everybody with the name Lombardi after Vince is just terrible at their job. But he's saying anybody could have had Matthew Stafford. And I honestly don't doubt the notion that the Rams would love to get off of that cap hit and just hard reset. I really don't think that's impossible. But I find it hard to believe that they were willing to just give him up to anyone who would take the contract. That seems like a little bit of a stretch to me. I know it's a massive contract, and to a degree, who cares? You won a Super Bowl. You do whatever it takes to win that Super Bowl. Oh, but they got rid of all those picks, and oh, look at this contract for Matt Stafford. I'm sorry, did your team win one? If your name's not the Chiefs in the last 2 years, you don't have a leg to stand on, because all that matters is winning the Super Bowl. Okay? So it's fine that they made the deal when they made it. I just have a hard time seeing the Rams saying, yes, we will give him to literally anyone. We will take anything back. Just take this money. Take this cap hit from us. That seems a little too idealistic to me. But honestly, if I'm the Rams and Matt Stafford's got a neck problem, he's got an elbow problem, he's old, I am not surprised. Maybe they would like to try to offload him on someone. I just don't think it would be as seamless as Michael Lombardi is trying to make it out to be.
Yeah, I'm with you there. My other, I don't doubt that they could have had a financially motivated reasoning why they would have wanted to move away from Matt Stafford. My immediate question of that, though, and how much even that is a motivator, goes to, if that was the Rams' thought, why did they sign him to this deal in the first place? Because we're so early into it. And I know part of that is, the Rams trying to give some continuity after the Super Bowl and all that, because I think it was they won the Super Bowl, and then immediately, that offseason was the signing of the 4-year, $160 million contract, because last year was year one of the deal. But all that being said, they've made this financial commitment, and the Rams, as much as they're in this spot, and there can be some nitpicky things we can go over with it, I have a real hard time believing they would have said, we will take whatever we can get, because then I would have gone, if they're that silly to do that, would they have, are we saying that the same people who were stupid enough to do that, are those the same people stupid enough to sign the big contract in the first place that gives you this early financial commitment?
I will say, and I had sort of forgotten about the contract details, this is one of the worst contracts I've ever seen. Matthew Stafford this year is going to be 35 years old. Again, had a neck problem last year. Had an elbow problem that was one of the biggest NFL training camp storylines of the year. Hey, by the way, the quarterback who just won the Super Bowl might not be able to throw the ball anymore. Is anyone concerned about this? Yes, extremely. If they were to cut him next year, okay, do you have his contract up right now?
Oh, I got it up right here, and it is ugly.
His dead cap next year, so going into his age 36 season, would be $91.5 million. We're obviously not cutting him right now, but that's absurd. Why did you give this much money to this guy who's not Aaron Rodgers, who's like the Packers deal for Aaron Rodgers? They're not going to end up paying the whole thing because he got traded. And obviously it seemed at the time like, hey, they're pot committed to him because they gave him this gigantic contract. Well, then it came out that Rodgers really wasn't nearly as committed to Green Bay as Green Bay was to him. And then also the Packers sucked last year.
Yeah.
So you move off of that deal and you reset from there. I don't really know what the Rams are going to do with this contract, because I don't think anyone's banging down the door saying, when the Rams won the Super Bowl, they were saying, we are the quarterback away. We need it doesn't even have to be an elite quarterback. He just needs to be good. And with a good to better than good quarterback, we can win the Super Bowl. And they were right. And it worked.
100%
and that gamble
correct.
paid off completely. But no one is saying 35-plus-year-old Matthew Stafford is the key to a Super Bowl. That is going to be the piece that puts us over the top. Absolutely not.
I mean,
no, he is not.
Are you taking a contract to where when Matt Stafford is 36, his cap hit is $49.5 million? Are you taking Matt Stafford when he is 37, his cap hit is $50.5 million?
Nope.
Like,
he's getting all of this money because even his
130 of the 160 million was guaranteed.
2026, the last year of the deal, if you cut him, you'd have $18.5 million in dead cap. And amazingly, that would still save you $31 million against the cap. That's crazy.
This entire, like, I don't know how real they're, because I'm with you on Michael Lombardi. I'm with you on, I don't know how much I believe any of his reporting ever. But if you are the Rams, like, I don't feel bad for you if you were trying to do this because you were the idiots that signed him to the contract in the first place. But this just circles all the way back to after the Rams won the Super Bowl and knowing what they gave up to get there, why didn't they just choose that moment to be the reset of just, we won, we got the shiny hardware. All right, let's take a break for a little bit. You can rest on a Super Bowl for like 5 years.
Honestly, for that franchise's sake, I think the best option probably would have been McVay stepping away.
Yeah.
McVay steps away. Aaron Donald either retires or tries to get traded or get cut or whatever.
You let Stafford walk.
Let Stafford go sign a free agent deal with, I don't know, Tennessee,
Cleveland.
Houston, anyone else, fine, and just reset from there. Instead, they are stuck with this albatross of a guy who has elbow and neck problems as a quarterback. Not good. Not a good spot to be in at all. So, yeah, I don't doubt they would love to get rid of that cap hit. I do doubt that they were just going to give him away to anyone who would have taken him. That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines, though. We're going to get to a quick break. On the other side of this timeout, Kadarius Toney, just chill out, man. That's up next on 580 Sports Talk. 536 on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Fulton. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon. Kadarius Toney has had an interesting offseason in the sense that for some reason, Giants fans keep talking about him, and he has stirred up some of this on his own as well. But I have seen multiple times. There was a video on Twitter a while back from some Giants podcast where they were talking all about, we don't even care that Kadarius Toney is gone. Did you see this? It was 3 hosts. It was doing a video podcast, a vodcast, if you will. And they were talking about how we don't even care about Kadarius Toney. He's showing off that he won the Super Bowl. Big deal. We don't even care. Bro, you made an 8-minute YouTube Twitter video straight ripped from a podcast that you figured you were going to get extra attention with. So you posted about not caring about him. What?
Please, I am not mad. I am not owned. Please tell everybody that I am not owned.
Yeah, don't put it in the newspaper how mad I am or not mad I am about Kadarius Toney. But that being said, Kadarius, you probably don't need to jump into someone's DMs. I believe these were Twitter DMs.
Yes, it was.
Start cursing at them. So Twitter recently introduced a feature. I have not used it, and if you use this with me, I swear to God, I'm going to freak out. But you can send audio. You can send voice messages through Twitter DMs.
Yeah, it's much like, on Apple's iMessages, you can send voice memos.
Right.
Which, again, if you do that to me, I'm going to think, are you trying to run away from the police?
And a Twitter user, Giants fan, it is an anonymous account. It has a first name, Evan, on the account, but the handle is Kayvon Ojulari for the 2 edge rushers for the Giants, Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau. Thank you. And the picture is of Daniel Jones. And he was tweeting, or he was DMing Kadarius Toney mean stuff. Yo music is trash, you bust bleep. You can probably guess what that bleep is based on my misspeak right there. You miss Daniel Jones, that's why you're mad. Huh. Nobody misses you sitting on the sideline all season, buddy. You ain't do bleep for us besides stay injured, bum bleep. And I mean, it's just a troll. You're a loser if you do this for the record. You cannot
this
possibly
dude is a loser. This dude is a grade A loser. Think of every joke you want to think of to make about loser type people. That's what this guy is.
No doubt. But Kadarius Toney sent, and I cannot play them for you because they are explicit. He sent multiple voice messages back to this guy saying that I don't miss Daniel Jones. He misses me, and using the F word and saying various things about this Giants troll.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, Dan and I have talked about this a lot over the last few shows. Some people just love posting. They love being online. They love interacting with people, not necessarily because they just want to mix it up with the fans, but because they want to talk their trash. They want to talk smack. They want to tell you how much better they are than you, or make you think at least that they are better than you. They love doing things like that. Maybe Kadarius Toney is that guy. I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not. Hard to say. I don't know the guy personally. I think we can tell from his behavior on social media that he does sometimes like to get the Twitter fingers going, or in this case, the Twitter lips flapping. There is absolutely no need for this. And this goes for Giants fans, too, because, of course, Toney came over to the Chiefs from the Giants. I saw a post just today from the Giants Wire, which is the Giants blog, part of the USA Today network, about how Kadarius Toney is still obsessed with the Giants. Dog, it is a two-way street. It is not just Kadarius Toney talking about your team. And I don't get it, Folt, because this breakup between the two parties was frankly better for everyone. Kadarius Toney benefits because he ends up with the Chiefs and is being talked up as the number 1 receiver for the team next year. Had a pair of massive plays in the Super Bowl, including a touchdown and the longest punt return in Super Bowl history, one of the most important parts of Super Bowl 57. And for the Giants, the pick didn't work. It was made by a GM that nobody there liked. They've moved on from Dave Gettleman. Toney was hurt all the time. He barely played. And they just decided to move on, and they made the playoffs. They won a playoff game last year. Why are you fighting? This is completely unnecessary. And I know in the heat of the moment, sports, you get passionate, you get emotional. And I'm never going to be one to object to passion. This is not passion to me, though. This is just kind of dumb. for both sides.
It's dumb on both sides. It's dumb of Kadarius Toney and athletes in general. I can't believe that it'd be easy. You can't interact with idiots like this. You can't. Because there are going to be people who send you crap in your DMs constantly. One, I'll be honest, every professional athlete on this planet needs to have private DMs. Like, don't leave them open, nothing. Just close them off. Don't let people in there. Because you're going to get the worst kind of people trying to stir things up. So on the Kadarius Toney front, Toney just has got to let this go. And I'm not acting like it's easy, but you have to keep a level head and just realize these people want to do nothing more than stir things up and make you look like a psycho and make you look like a bad person. On the other side, from the Giants side, from the Giants fan base perspective, I ask politely all of you to, first off, take off the diaper and put on some big person pants. And secondly,
Sheesh.
go touch grass. Please. This person in particular, who, one, she's fans to interact with this idiot. But moreover, I asked this person, go touch grass. Please. Because it is clear you are sick in the head. Like, this guy has made a thread of people complaining about Kadarius Toney, saying mean things to them on Twitter DMs. And all these people being like, oh my goodness, NFLPA, look at this bad guy in my Twitter DMs. Completely leaving out the part that they started all this. Like, every single one of them started all this. Kadarius Toney is in the wrong for responding. I want to make that so abundantly clear. Toney is in the wrong for responding. But all of these people are also in the wrong for starting things, because the all bark, no bite people on the internet frustrate me. And I don't get it. If you are a Giants fan, why do you care? Your franchise is in a better spot now with Kadarius Toney off the team. Why do you care so much? Truly. Why do you care?
Complete weirdo behavior. But also,
it's insane.
You don't need to interact, man.
No,
you really
for Toney, it's literally every professional athlete. Turn off your DMs on Twitter, Instagram, everything, every social media you have, make private. Don't let the psychos into your messages.
Don't wrestle with pigs, because then you both get dirty and the pig likes it. Do not do it. It is not worth your time.
Don't argue with a stupid person, because they'll bring you down to your level and beat you with experience.
We've got to take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. On the other side of this timeout, though, the All-Star game coming up tonight. Been a good start to the All-Star weekend. Who's going to win, AL or NL? We'll talk about it next on 580 Sports Talk. Fulton, you a big Wimbledon guy?
Not heavily.
You into tennis at all?
I like playing tennis. I occasionally watch tennis, but I like playing tennis.
I took lessons as a kid.
Oh,
I really
okay.
enjoyed it as a kid, in fact. I haven't played since I was 12, maybe. And not for me on TV. I just can't really get into it. We had a big upset earlier today, though. The number one women's player in the world, Iga Swiatek, or it might be Swiatek, she was stunned and knocked off and will not be making it to the quarters, I believe, or is it the semifinals? No, so she was eliminated in the quarterfinal rounds by Ukrainian Elena Svitolina, who just returned to competitive tennis in April after she gave birth last October.
Impressive.
Dang, that's wild. In less than a year.
Got that mom strength.
And she's out here beating the number one player in the world as an unseeded player in the Wimbledon quarters. How about that? Also, Jessica Pegula lost today. She's also fairly highly ranked in the world, but I don't know what exactly her world ranking is. She is the daughter of the Pegula family that owns the Bills and the Sabres. So there's a fun fact for you.
That's a nice little factoid you dropped on us, Brendan.
Yeah, that's your Wimbledon update. Djokovic is probably going to win the whole thing for the men.
From noted tennis insider Brendan Dorsinski.
Yeah, tennis insider for sure. There is an American, what's his name, Christopher Eubanks?
Yes, I believe Chris Eubanks.
Yeah, he's been great. He's on to the semi-final, or is he into the quarterfinals? I think he's into the quarterfinals, and that'll be tomorrow.
Yes, I believe so.
First American to get that far in their first appearance at Wimbledon in several decades.
Yeah.
So, pretty cool. An American tennis standout. It has been a while.
Oh, yeah.
Andy Roddick. Is he the last American tennis star?
On the men's side, yes.
The men's side, excuse me. Obviously, Serena Williams is kind of a big deal.
I believe so. I'm no tennis expert. I believe Andy Roddick, though, probably the last men's tennis star in the U.S.
I feel like he was a huge star for a long time, and yet he only ever won one major. Kind of wild. All-Star game tonight. Are you going to watch?
Oh, yeah. It is the only All-Star game I will watch.
I
have an unhealthy relationship with the game of baseball.
I do not like the All-Star game. I'm not interested in it. And in terms of watching it, I wish the best of luck to all the players from my favorite team who are going to participate, which is actually only one of the three All-Stars. It's only going to be Justin Steele because Dansby Swanson's hurt and Marcus Stroman doesn't pitch in the All-Star game when he goes. And best of luck to Salvi whenever he gets in. But I'm just not really interested in a game that doesn't mean anything when I could watch any of these players any night. I have a service that I could watch them at any time. The Major League Baseball All-Star game, though, and you've heard me talk about this for years, that I have a disdain for All-Star games. Yep. It is the best of the major sports All-Star games.
Correct.
The NFL doesn't even do a real Pro Bowl anymore. Who knows what they'll do next year? The NBA All-Star game sucks. And the NHL All-Star game, I'm just not into hockey enough, and it also is kind of sucky. So not really.
The MLB All-Star game might be the All-Star game where the players try the most, which I think helps make it good.
Probably, but it does also suffer from the fact that guys don't play the whole time.
Yeah, the fact that you need to rotate as many dudes as possible because you want to give them as much time. Baseball is a difficult sport because, like NBA, it works out because it's built on using majority of your roster and rotating guys in and out. Baseball, because there's no re-entering of substitutions. It's, like Garrett Cole and Zach Gallen are your two starters this evening. You'll get 1 to 2 innings of each of those guys to start off the game, and then we will be done seeing them for the rest of the night. Like, I agree. It suffers a bit from that in that aspect. Jake mentioned, I think I was talking with Jake one time about this, about, because of the way the game works and how many substitutions are made, why, it's kind of a bummer that a tight All-Star game is decided by like the 27th best All-Star late in the game, which I said is fair, but then I also added, and that's why it's good that it no longer means anything to win the All-Star game.
Yes, I agree with that. It
was the dumbest thing in the world when the winner of the All-Star game decided home field advantage.
I agree with you.
Stupidest thing on this planet.
I also think it's dumb that you have to have an All-Star representative from every team.
I'm on it as much as that has benefited my favorite baseball team many, 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 many years. I also agree. Not every team Brent Rooker is the athletics representative. Brent Rooker had one good month and then has fallen off a table back to his normal self. Big shocker real surprised to see that happen, by the way.
And cool for him. Like, he'll
Yeah.
get to say forever he was a Major League Baseball all-star. Not a lot of guys get to say that. I get it. But if your goal is to have the best players and have all the stars, which you already don't get because so many guys choose not to play
or opt out and whatever.
Or the rules about pitchers. If they pitch on Sunday, they can't play in the All-Star game, all that. You're not even getting close. So when you say decided by the 27th best All-Star, really you're being decided by something like the 38th best All-Star.
I believe we're at the point now where roughly 70 players are All-Stars this year based on opt-outs and other things like that. We're getting close to like 10% of the league is All-Stars. So it does I'm picking one person out here, but I promise I'm not trying to be mean. Geraldo Perdomo is an All-Star this year. Sometimes also the replacements make no sense. And I know the system is not as simple as just they pick a guy. The system to determine who replaces injured players or other players is, based off of voting patterns and manager lists and whatever. So it's not as simple as it could seem, but Geraldo Perdomo's an All-Star. We're starting to really scrape the bottom of the barrel.
Another win for the AL tonight?
I think so.
I didn't even realize how dominant they have been in the last 30 plus years.
They only lost
3 times.
Yeah.
3 straight wins for the NL. That's it.
I'm always going to, as a fan of an American League team, I will always pick the American League to be the winners.
I think that's usually a pretty safe bet. We've got to get to one more break. We'll wrap things up with the 580 Sports Talk final word next. We've got to get to a real quick final word, Fulton.
It's very simple. Salvador Perez, I hope he gets to do something fun in the All-Star game tonight. Whether it, is at the plate or behind the plate, just hopefully he gets to do something fun and enjoy himself in another All-Star appearance for the captain.
Final word for me, Kansas City Royals. I just want to know the plan. I just want to know what do you, as an organization, expect out of the next couple of years, given your drafting approach, given your free agency approach, and your approach with your current professional roster? What is the goal? What is the plan for the next several years? And maybe more importantly, are you going to be completely honest with us about the reality? That means more to me right now, more than the optimistic viewpoint. I want to know what's actually going to happen. We've got full coverage from Big 12 Football Media Days starting tomorrow, noon to 3 with Jake and Dan, 3 to 6 with myself and Fulton. We're back to talk all things KU, Big 12, and more coming up tomorrow on the show. But until then, for Fulton Caster, I'm Brendan Brzezinski. We'll join you tomorrow at 3 on 580 Sports Talk.